Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to GameSpot After Dark episode 25. This week we're joined by NoClip's Danny O'Dwyer as he tells us about his Doom Eternal experience and a bunch of other stuff. So check out the description below. We have timestamps for everything. And without further ado, hello and welcome to episode 25 of GameSpot After Dark. We are back this week with a packed episode. As you can see, if you're watching on video, we've got Danny O'Dwyer here.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you? Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's been a hot minute since I was here. It's been even longer since I was on a podcast with this guy.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
And the set has changed quite a bit, huh?
Looking great. Looking great. Podcast audience.
Yeah.
Who can't see this?
And then Tamoor Hussain is with us.
Hello, I'm here. I'm back. I'm ready to podcast.
And Lucy James.
Hi. I was here last week.
Yeah.
I was here last week. I forgot about that.
I was not here last week. But anyway, we're going to start with the Chris from Dayton, Ohio segment, which we haven't actually done in a while, to introduce Danny. Then we're going to get into what we've been playing. We're going to go right into topics. We're just going to cry about all the games that got delayed.
Yeah, real good news week.
Yeah.
I know, right? And then we have some dancers that we're going to get into.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, God, I hope they're actually not.
They're not.
About life advice? Okay.
We hacked into the
Yeah.
dance.
They're mostly about like no clip and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then finally, listener questions to round out the show. But yeah, let's start out with the Chris from Dayton, Ohio segment. Do you want to hear the story behind this?
I know it. I've listened to the podcast.
Oh, okay, you do. All right.
Yeah.
Well then, without further ado,
Yeah.
Danny O'Dwyer, who are you?
Whoa, where's the jingle?
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Chris. Thank you very much, Stuart. My name is Danny. I used to work here at GameSpot. I worked before here. I worked at GameSpot UK, and before GameSpot UK, we met on GameSpot's
GameSpot,
forums.
yeah.
Me and Tamoor ran a independent game site called Citizen Game.
What a name.
What a name.
What a
Citizen Game.
Never, do you remember that?
The Gerard Butler
The
story.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
That came out as Gamer in the end?
Yeah, so like there was
Yeah.
a minute where the movie Gamer was called Citizen Game.
Yeah.
And we were like,
pre-production.
we were like, oh, this is a problem.
we were like, well, that's our
we were like,
SEO out the window. Or maybe it helped it.
I was like, the lawyers are gonna come for us. Maybe we can get rich off this.
Well, like a Hungry Jack,
Yeah, we'll give
Burger
it to you.
King
Yeah,
situation.
we'll give it to you.
We'll
A
give
couple
it to you
$100,000.
Totally, yeah.
How much do you like believe in this movie?
Right. Yeah, the 500 people who listen to our podcast will really appreciate us holding on to that one. It was we met on your Orochimaru Sama or something.
was me.
Oh my
Yeah, on the
God.
forums. And
What were you on the forums?
I was just maybe I was Daniel. I think it was Danny O'Dwyer.
I think it was just Daniel
Was it?
Dwyer,
Yeah,
his
yeah.
full name.
I was Daniel O'Dwyer on Steam forever. I had to
Yeah.
change it. And we a bunch of us met who kind of were around. Most of us tend to be in the UK. There was a couple of
Yeah.
other ones. And when I moved to London to try and get into GameSpot UK, it turned out he was like one tube stop up from me. I was in Stratford and you were up in Leytonstone. Yeah. So he used to do podcasts in my spare room in Stratford.
What a time
right
it
beside the
was.
Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's the first time we've done a podcast since, I think. I don't think we ever... Did we have you on
Yeah.
GameSpot UK when I was there? Or I don't know.
No, I don't
Weren't
think so.
you-
Because Guy
An
was hosting that
intern?
podcast.
Yeah, but
I wasn't
Danny
there.
wasn't there at that time.
Yeah.
Danny was working somewhere else at that time. Yeah.
And then you joined UK after I left.
you left, yeah. So
Yeah.
you moved
I was here then.
here, yeah, but like very briefly.
Yeah.
So as I joined, you left.
Right, yeah. So we kept missing each other.
Yeah, so we kept
Yeah.
missing each other.
And then we did here as well.
We did dances.
Oh, we did Dancers. Okay.
We did dances
Yeah.
once. Yeah.
Life Advice.
There was one E3 when we were here together.
It's a Life Advice podcast I did with
Yeah,
Dan
yeah,
Reichert on Giant Bomb. He has also now left Giant. But see, everything's
leaving.
messed up. It's all over the place. It's all broken.
The timeline.
Yeah. But for the past 3.5 years, I've been working. Well, I guess now I'm back in the Bay Area, but I'm all over the place on a thing called No Clip. We make documentaries about video games, and that's pretty much all we do.
You got a
And,
new studio set up and it looks great.
Yeah,
too.
in Emeryville, right around, not too far from here. Basically, the other side of the Bay Bridge. We're like right there. Well, you live there. So.
Yeah.
He lives
Near
not in
near
my
the
studio.
I live in his studio.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
That's where you're living, huh?
That's how we pay for the rent for the studio, which is also Bay Area prices. Shout out to Mike Micah, my landlord of Other Ocean. Yeah, he is.
Mike Micah?
Yeah, he owns the building.
Jeez.
No, Mike's cool. Slow the rent a little bit, buddy.
Right in.
Yeah, exactly. So we just, myself and Jeremy Jane, of course, who also used to work here
Wow.
at GameSpot. Yeah, he's the shooter for Giant Bomb or for No Clip, and he colors all our work. And now he's editing stuff because we have a studio and we're actually sort of diving in a bit more and doing a bit more, trying to get a bit more work out there. So yeah,
Cool.
Good to be back though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most comprehensive Chris from Dayton, Ohio segment.
It's because I'm Irish and I don't know when to shut up, so I need one of you.
No. That's
No, it's
how
in
it
like
should be.
in a good
That's how
way.
it
You
should
hit all
be.
the points.
Yeah,
Right.
you
It's
hit
all done.
every
I can just
point.
leave now.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah, that's all you're here for, just for that, and then we get on with the show.
Well, to be honest, one of the things that happens after you, well, I don't know if it's true for everyone, but certainly for me, after you leave the games press, is that you suddenly stop. You start getting out of step with the frenetic pace of like game launches,
Yeah.
and sometimes you're just months behind, and then other times you're a little bit closer to it. So. Yeah, in a way, I feel like it's going to be kind of interesting looking at all the news because I'm like, I usually find this out from listening to the podcast. So,
So what was the last, I guess, big game that you played on release date then?
Oh,
Or, like,
boy.
did you still like play these games on release date for a little bit, but then just come back to them when you've got time?
Yeah, I feel like I'm usually playing. I usually don't try and start them. There's two things that happens. One, I have a daughter who's 1.5 years old, so that sucks out loads of oxygen out of the room right away. So you have to be. Then you're like really selective about what you're doing. And then on top of that, with all the documentaries we do, we tend to do them after the games came out.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in this. Both me and my wife we never go to the cinema anymore because you can't with the kids, or you can leave her with parents or whatever, but we don't tend to. So all the movies we watch are like 9 months later on Amazon, right, when they finally go up for rental. And it's the same with games, where I tend to, I was playing a lot of Outer Wilds at the end of the year because we did a doc on it. That was maybe actually the last game I played the week it came out. It was right before E3, and I remember I had a gulf in time because E3 was coming up, and when you're planning for E3 and then you kind of nothing else is going on, and I had a couple of days and I was like, I'll play it. But that was probably the last one. What else big came out last year? I'm trying to think. Like I just recently
Sekiro.
I tried, like I played maybe 4 days of it, realized I just wasn't in that space where I could, really commit to
Latch
it.
on and
Yeah,
relearn it, I guess.
totally. And I
Yeah.
backed off. And then Disco was
Yeah.
probably, which was GameSpot's latest 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I that was one of the reasons I went and it was Callie's review, was it?
No.
No, it was
Was it Switch Length?
No, it was Wild.
Wild
No.
Goose.
Wild
Yeah, it was
Goose,
Wild
yeah.
Goose,
I think it was
yeah.
Wild
Wild
Goose.
Goose.
Another game I played over the Christmas break because, everyone's been talking about it. So,
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I really, I liked it more than I thought because I'm not
Yeah.
really a big, I guess, CRPG
No, me
fan.
neither.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same with me.
Yeah, it's really smart. I
I
like
played,
how small
I played
it
an
is.
hour of it, and I went out, and I think Greg and Jen were in the kitchen, and they were like, "Oh, how's the game?" And I was like, "I think this is the best game I'm gonna play all year." And it was an hour in. I
So
was
we
like,
had I was speaking to the PR behind it, and they were like, "We've got this. You want an exclusive trailer for this little CRPG game?
Yeah.
It's called Disco Elysium." I was like, "Disco sounds good."
Yeah.
I saw like some screenshots for it now, like here and there, and I was like, "Yeah, we'll run it." And like that from then on, like I kept an eye on it, and then we got it a little bit. We got a preview of it,
Right.
so we got a preview build and played it. I was like, This is something.
I think it was. I think it was for Community Fridays, which is when Ben and Jean-Luc play. They just pick a game to play with the community every Friday, and they got an email from the developers saying like, "Hey, you guys should play Disco Elysium for Community Fridays." And I remember, I think Jean-Luc was like, "Yeah, it seems cool, but this is like not the kind of game that's really going to work for this setting."
Yeah.
Which is wild because that was, I don't know, it was probably a year before the game came out or something like
It's
that.
weird 'cause, like,
and then it came out and like swept
That's the thing where it was
yeah.
it just like hummed along the entire time. Everyone's like, yeah, maybe this will be good, but like, and then
So
it
hard
came
to
out and
tell.
everyone went, oh my lord,
Yeah.
and it just blew up from that point on.
It's like an impossible game for like a press conference or show floor or
Yeah.
something. It just
Yeah.
doesn't come across like you really need to be in the weeds with it for an hour or so. The video you guys did here was absolutely fantastic as well. Yeah,
if you want to see the magic behind it,
Yeah.
audio logs.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Really
shot
smashed
with
it.
Robert for hour and a half,
Right.
and it's frustrating when you have to cut it down to
Yeah,
something
totally,
that's
yeah.
like 17 minutes. But
Especially like in the video, and he's like, Disco's 1 million words, and I think a perfect game is 2 million or something like that. And it was
and
like,
in
oh
one
my god.
playthrough, you'll maybe
Yeah.
get 500,000.
There's something about like people get called a genius all the time,
Right.
But like watching him, like the way he describes things like where the text box is and how it tumbles up, and like the thing that he's like very casually, almost like humble way goes like, I think this is pretty clever.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, we put this in the corner because it's where the system tray is. I was like, this guy's kind of a genius.
Right.
Like he's an actual understated genius in the way that like a lot of people claim to be. Like he's not out there claiming to be a genius, but I would think like in terms of what he's written, some of the design things that he discusses in audio logs,
He's like, no one likes dragging rhombuses. And I'm like, that's true. No one does.
Like, he's like
Twitter sort of thing, like
Twitter, and like things like his insight into people as well. Like people like to look at text but don't absorb the text. That's the Twitter generation, right?
Yeah.
Or the idea that we don't read, but all we're doing is reading all the time.
Yeah, we're reading the basic stuff, and like the way that the text is, or the dialogue is designed to be aggressive towards you, to kind of like shock your attention,
force you to pay attention. Yeah.
That's why you're always being called like a pig and etc. etc. Like that's Galaxy Brain
also
design,
in like a second language as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That is legit Galaxy Brain design, and like I would like be comfortably call him a genius. He's incredible.
My favorite thing he said was that they had no idea how to do the thought cabinet, but he said, like any game designer from the Molyneux School of Game Design, I was talking about the promise of it, and had spent all this time at shows just talking about this feature that they had no idea how to implement, and then they were like, "Oh."
Thankfully, he landed the kickflip, unlike which Molyneux sort of sometimes did and sometimes didn't.
Yeah. We got to do a nice little motion graphic of an acorn for that.
Yeah, cool. I noticed that. I was like, oh. Danny, you got to check out Doom.
I did.
Doom Eternal. And you're a big Doom fan too, so this is perfect to have you here to talk about this.
Well, I really liked Doom. I like all the Dooms. I pretty much like any game it made, even the weird ones. Like, I really liked Rage 2 last year.
I did too.
They just know how to do shooting really well. And I like, people play games for different reasons. And like, I think that for me was a really good Ubisoft game where it was just like, Ubisoft formula, right? Where it's just
here's
like,
the thing, go do the thing.
Totally. Big checklist. But in a lot of those games, I don't enjoy the third person action very much. But in Rage, I really did. So I kind of like all of them. And obviously, Doom 2016 took everyone by storm. I still remember being here in the office and talking to Peter about it before, because the scuttlebutt before that game came out was they had a weird embargo, so everyone was like,
they had that thing where they were like, we're not going to talk to any press, wasn't it, or something like that?
It was around the time that Pete Hines and them were kind of they were being like you'll get it the day off.
Yeah, you're not getting review code.
And people like,
did they do that for Dishonored? Dishonored 2 is the same year, right?
Yeah, Dishonored 2,
there was a period where every Bethesda-related, id Software-related game was like, no press are going to see this.
You'll get it the day off.
Yeah,
I think
and that resulted in people going like, ooh, for Doom, is that a bad idea?
Yeah.
Was that the same thing as Press Sneak? I'm not swearing on this podcast.
No, that was
different?
That was
separate. But
that was Rafael Colantonio, I think.
Yeah. But because of that whole thing, like, there was no marketing and there was no word of mouth going around about
there was a lot
Doom.
of his sort of
worry
around
was
it.
E3 that year. That was the big Dishonored stuff that they did. It was like a half hour of just Dishonored 2.
Oh really?
I think so.
Yeah,
because Doom 2016 came out in March.
Was it March? So they would have missed it. But
earlier.
I don't remember anything from 20.
It might have been just over here.
Well, the 2015 for E3 was Fallout. It was big Fallout, and I think there was a little bit of Doom, and I think that was part of the reason why it's like, all right, Bethesda's big game, Fallout 4 has already come out, and like people saw Doom, and it looked fun, but it wasn't until you actually got to play it. That
everyone hated like the glory kills. Everyone was suspect about. None of the names they remembered. Like Marty Stratton had been there since I think almost as long as Tim Willits at that stage. Tim wasn't working on it; he was working on something else at the time. Quake Champions, I think it was. So there was like all these other, super, I guess, a lot of doubt behind it or whatever. And then it obviously comes out, everyone loves it. I remember talking to Peter about it, and he was like, I think it's really fucking good. Like, I think it's and then Brad was really into it and stuff. But for this one, it's that sophomore slump problem, that difficult second album. Like, how do they ape it? What direction do they go in? And from talking to them, I mean, Hugo talks a good talk. The guy used to be a comedian, so he knows how to he's done stand up. He knows how to
That's not surprising at all. But I did not know that.
And he's a super nice guy, and I like him to bits. But like anyone, he's gonna talk confidently about his game. But when I sat down and played it, the game just feels like so much more confident. Like like before, I think they also had to be really delicate with this cherished franchise. If it's like a seemingly new generation of devs coming in and taking something like Doom and then adding one-up thing, or one-up heads and jumping and climbing mechanics, like they played it a little bit close, but they were a little bit fast and loose with some of the especially the self-aware tone and all that sort of stuff. What I like in this one is not just the tone. In a way, the tone sort of hums along at the same way it was in the last game, but they just leaned into this as a goddamn video game, and it's by steering into it, they've made it like such more interesting moment to moment game where you kind of have to like you're saying with in Disco where they're constantly calling you pig to like arrest you and keep you there.
Yeah.
This game, like if you sleep for a second, if you just go into like Rocket League autopilot mode, like a goal will go in. You know what I mean? Like you need to be on top of it, you'll die. And I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Hyam saw it for us and he's written up a preview and there's videos as well. And I remember I was queuing the preview and like if you remove, I was reading the preview and I thought to myself, if you remove anything that identifies this game as Doom, like just the word Doom from it, and just read the description, it sounds like a Platinum game.
It's Devil May Cry.
Which is, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what, that was like, damn, this sounds like a legit like Japanese Platinum game, like character action game. And that made me way more excited.
Yeah.
I was really excited for it, but now I'm like, the synergy between abilities and the movement and kind of like keeping you on your toes and always focused and engaged sounds incredible. Like I'm so excited to play that game now, and yeah, just want it.
There's like way more demons. You're on like the Fortress of Doom, which is this weird castle, like that's floating off in space, and you transport to different parts of the Earth. Like I want to know where is there like a London level? I don't know. Like it doesn't look like they're descriptions of modern cities or whatever. I did look. There's a map where it has like where all the portals or wherever all the bad shit's gone on. And England was screwed, guys. Sorry, but Ireland was alright.
I mean, it's probably in a better state than it is in real life.
Hell Exit. What was it? Yeah, something like that.
I loved Doom 1, but the one thing I remember about Doom 1 is not, or Doom 2016, I guess, was not being able to just sit there and play all day because, like you were saying, it just demanded my attention the entire time.
Right.
So I'm excited for Eternal, but I'm also nervous about how much I can play of that game because I found that game, like, I don't want to say exhausting because that sounds bad, but I could do a level and then I had to step away and like catch my breath and like, I don't know, drink a beer and then come back and play another level.
I couldn't play Doom 2016 for a different reason. That is, it makes me incredibly motion sick.
Really?
Yeah. And I played it. So I picked it up. I didn't pick it up when it came out, but I picked it up ahead of E3 this year because I was like, well, they're probably going to have the Doom interview.
Yeah.
I should play 2016. And I picked it up cheap on PSN. Woof.
Really? Right away?
Yeah, you can't change like enough of the depth of field of view and anything. And it's just...
Have you had that with other games?
I can't do VR.
Okay.
I can do Vive because I can't do PlayStation VR.
Right.
Tetris Effect in PlayStation VR
you can't
wrecked me.
That's amazing. And for that, you're basically like
sat still.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's very. I don't know if I'm just hypersensitive to that kind of thing.
The lag.
I get motion sickness and I have the same thing. And when I played it on PS4, I think it was, it made me so sick.
PC.
And then
but that's the thing. I want
to
try it on PC.
I went to PC because you can mess with the FOV on that, and like different things like that, and like motion blur and that kind of stuff. And I found the sweet spot, and it was incredible. Like, PC.
Send me your settings page.
I'll find it.
Your INI file.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird because it used to be a much more of a problem when Oculus was first starting and everyone was throwing software onto that thing, and you would go to all these press events. And I remember one press event, it was a first-person adventure game, and they had it had a button to crouch.
Oh, right.
So immediately your character goes down and you're stood there, and I just took the thing off, and I was like, I'm going to be sick. And I left, and I was fine.
That's awful.
But then the actual developer had to demo the rest of it, and he said, well, actually, I can't play VR either, so it makes me incredibly sick.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
I had
Dark like days.
There was one demo that I did, and I think it was a horror game. The one it was like set in a hospital. I can't remember what
I know what you're talking about. I played that game, but I don't remember.
It used the teleporting movement system. And like it started to make me feel sick, so I got around it by every time I moved, I closed my eyes. So I'd be like that, and I'd open it, like, and it would just be a normal thing. And then the next thing I did,
like those Doctor Who statues.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like a circuit of games, so you do like a bunch of VR games.
Oh right.
The next one I got on,
It's like Tough Mudder.
Was exactly. It was like. It was a mountain bike.
Oh, great, yeah.
Did you ever see the mountain
bike
one?
Yeah, I remember with the one where it flies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like you get on this mountain bike and you start pedaling, and if you've got a VR headset, you're on a horse.
Yeah.
And then like the developer did not tell me what happens.
It's like a Pegasus.
So like you're riding a horse and like by pedaling the horse is going quicker, and then once you hit a certain speed, you just start flying.
God.
And like it happened. I immediately fell off the bike. Like I immediately fell off the bike,
Smash
and
it.
I like got up, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "You can't just
You can't
let
do that,
happen. Like there's people who genuinely feel sick." And he was like, "Oh, I didn't really think about it." I was like, "What?
That's amazing.
Good luck with your
That's
VR game,
amazing.
mate."
This is my one last motion sickness story. Do you remember? I think this was the Gamescom that I went to with you
Right.
and Peter Brown, and I went to play Mirror's Edge 2.
Oh,
And
right.
someone, I think we have GameSpot always parks up in this, because we don't have a room. We just park up in that little concourse next to the
Oh,
business
yeah.
center.
Our office is just like,
Yeah.
it's like the side of the steps.
It's a corridor.
somewhere. Yeah.
And I went straight from that demo, and I wasn't feeling good.
Right.
And then I was handed, we got like lunch sandwiches in, and I had this, I remember, an egg salad sandwich.
Oh.
And I took one bite,
Oh, no.
and then I threw up in the bin on the concourse next
Oh,
to the steps,
no.
and then immediately filmed those impressions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's very
Professional.
That's dedication.
That's
Yeah.
dedication.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, did not play Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Right.
Well,
Sorry.
I hope
It wasn't great.
Sorry, Dice.
Yeah.
I hope for you too that Half-Life Alyx has a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
settings and you're able to get through that one.
If it's Vive,
I
it's fine.
trust
Vive
Valve.
is.
Yeah, I trust
Vive.
Valve to be like think about that stuff.
I feel like they have to,
Yeah,
right?
they've got to, like they can't like screw that up, especially with Index like being their big thing. They
Yeah.
need to make it as like available to as many people as possible.
Do you trust them to get it out in March? Because we're like the end of January
Hey,
right
they
now.
said
Still
it's
doesn't have a
polished.
name.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in polish now. They don't anticipate a delay.
All right.
They did an
Oh,
AMA
you're talking
on
about the
Reddit.
game here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It still
it'll
doesn't have a
come out on
date.
time. It'll come
Still
out.
March.
It'll come out on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they can delay it. I feel like
No.
they would look pretty like you've waited this long. You might as well just wait until it was ready
Yeah.
before you're going to
So
announce
they-
it if you're
yeah.
going to delay it.
They did an AMA this morning or
Yes.
yesterday,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
this
they were
morning.
like, it's pretty much done.
Oh,
We're
really?
just polishing it. Yeah.
Doom is out the week of GDC, so I just don't want any other game that week because we're going to be really
When's
busy.
Animal Crossing?
Same day.
It's Doom.
That's
There's two very different camps.
See, there's,
double
there's your
feature.
balance there.
It's
Gets too
perfect for
intense.
me. Yeah.
Go Animal Crossing for a bit.
It's
Ooh,
like,
just
like
need to
do that
plant
thing
some
where you play
trees.
a game so much that it bleeds into life in
Yeah.
itself. So then you just be like, why isn't KK Slider murdering everyone?
Yeah.
Right now?
Or like
Why is Tom Nook's head
Yeah.
eyes bleeding?
Yeah.
I like have that thing because I've played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. Whenever I see one of those cameras that are around, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
shoot that out.
He does that while he's walking down the corridor.
Yeah,
Occasionally
yeah.
he'll just go like
Peeking around corner, doing the stupid lean they do.
You see him walking around just like this.
For me, that
constantly.
reminds you of Splinter Cell. That's like
Yeah,
an They should
I was
make one of
thinking about that
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Been asking Tamoor and I every
Oh my
E3
God,
Ubisoft
every E3.
predictions. We're like,
where you at?
Splinter
It's gonna
Cell.
be this year.
Michael
Yeah,
Ironside
I can't
fan.
even fool myself anymore.
It's not gonna be this.
Have you any final thoughts on Doom Eternal, at least from what you saw?
The version they brought seems to be complete. I mean, there was technical problems that it crashed a bunch of times, but like the actual game seems like it's kind of there.
How's the soundtrack?
Yeah, like the one thing that came across I was trying to listen for is I remember Mick Gordon put a call out 2 years ago for metal singers all around the world, so we could build a metal like choir. And I think that's what I heard. There was there's way more vocalization in the soundtrack this time around, but it sounded like bitching. Like I was leaving that going like I'm like editing a feature back in the studio at the moment and being like, God, I wish I had some of
Was
that
it-
music for it.
Yeah.
Was it? This is a weird specific question, but like was the metal vocal stuff just always on it, or was it one of those games things mechanics where it's like the better you're doing, the more the vocal comes in?
I think because the June 2016 they did have like the songs ended after those because the encounters in the game are so like structured, like it's like arena combat, right? And then you're into a little bit in the middle, and then arena combat, so it was that way. But the vocalizations seemed to be in when you were sort of engaging with the more hellish
Okay,
natures
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
because there's a lot of like cultist stuff going on in it. So whenever you were. And it's really funny because they just breeze through the story. Like you're talking to people who like seem to know who you are, and the personalization or characterization of the Doom Slayer is like way like more
Yeah.
there. But they're still not really talking about it. You still have to read. Like they never really stop to like tell you, okay, this is what's happened. This is how long has gone since Doom 2016. Because like Earth's fucked at this stage. So you're kind of like, you know, what's going on or who are these people? But same as the last game, you have to use the codex and pick up all the extra details to figure it out, which is kind of cool. It's like a weird way of telling the story, but it works.
Did you get the bit where you get a collectible and fist bump it?
Yeah, I got Yeah, because in the original game it was the like
It was the little
They were little bobblehead.
bobbleheads,
Yeah.
but they were all like versions of the Doomslayer.
Yeah.
Now it's the demons.
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So I got a bobblehead of like a cyber mastermind or a arachnotron, one of the others, and I got another one of another. Yeah, and he took it. I don't think he did the fist bump, but he picked it up, and they look so cute. Like they look like
They must be selling.
Yeah,
them.
have to
They
sell them.
have to
yeah,
sell
totally,
them.
yeah,
Here's an advert.
yeah.
Did
It's
you-
stored up at Bethesda.com?
Did you go to the Doomslayer's like living quarters or whatever?
Oh my god! So
Because
yeah.
I heard
His
about this. I don't
bedroom.
know what's in it.
Oh
but
no, I didn't go to his bed. So the
One
one
these bedrooms there. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the ship that you're on, the Fortress of Doom, as it's known, is like it's basically his like hub or whatever, and it has all that. My favorite thing that's in there, and they make you go through it after the second level for like a little tutorial stuff. It's really heavy on tutorial stuff at start. Way more explicitly in the first game actually, where they straight up transport you to like a holodeck area and you do something
okay.
and you go back again.
Oh, okay.
But they have an area at the bottom. What's it called? John Luke probably shouted in. I think it's called the Demon Prison or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what it is? Yeah. And it's basically just like he has a bunch of demons stuck in a prison so he can just like test out his guns. So you just go down and he's just like boom, boom, boom. He's like, yeah, that's all right. And then you take the elevator back up. It's so stupid. I think it was called the Riptorium or something.
Oh my
Yes, it was called the Riptorium.
Yeah, Riptorium.
That's
It's
amazing.
It's great. So yeah,
That's amazing.
They're not taking themselves too seriously.
So excited for this game. Oh wait.
Anything else you've been playing, watching, doing?
Not really. A couple of games of stuff that we're doing videos on that I don't think I can. When's it? Is this going up this week?
Was it Friday? Yeah.
Friday. I can't say it, but yeah. Just I don't know. Follow me on Steam or PSN if you want to see what documentaries are coming out because I never block anything. But yeah, we're working on a bunch of stuff. We're gonna be in Texas and France for one. Yeah.
I think I know that.
And we're going.
Got some questions for you after this.
And we're going to LA next week for a short one, which isn't too dissimilar from the last one we did, kind of,
Okay.
in terms of letters, let's say.
Oh, that one that you teased there. Oh,
Yeah.
You're in the right room for that.
Yeah, that should be fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Tomorrow. What about you? What are you up to?
I've been playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Crapperot? Is it Crapperot? I'm hearing mixed things. Some
Karen?
people seem to like it.
I'm
What
like, huh? I'm
It's
like
not- what's it actually called?
Kakarot. Kakaroto.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, no. Now I know.
Oh, now I
Yeah,
know.
totally.
I feel like people are actually really liking it. So I apologize for saying
I've heard the
Crapperot.
opposite.
Yeah.
Really?
All I've heard
I
is the
mean,
opposite.
you've spoken to me about it.
Yeah, well, that's true. But even before you, the
Yeah. So,
scuttlebutt
like,
I was hearing.
I'm trying to be that person that not to yuck people's yums. Like,
Excuse me?
What the hell is
You
that?
never heard that phrase?
I'm not going to Google it, that's for sure.
On a work
Turn
Wi-Fi.
safe search off and Google yuck yums. Like, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. Like, because I see a lot of people really enjoying it, and they're like,
Well, it's got like a 75 on Metacritic,
yeah, it's
which
doing.
was
I mean,
surprised.
like, Metacritic's not the greatest indicator.
It's
of
true.
anything, but
Define
like,
CBS Friday.
But like, still, a lot of the reviews that went up there initially were like from websites I'd never even heard of. So like, a lot of people are enjoying it, and I respect that people are enjoying it. Like,
I don't respect them.
cards.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, actually, if I'm being honest, I don't respect it at all. Cards on the table. I'm like huge Dragon Ball fan. I think anyone can attest to that knows me. Like, I love Dragon Ball. Grew up watching it. And like, I'm very, very passionate, close to my heart, Vegeta-san. But like, I played it and it just did nothing for me. It's like it feels like, I think Peter described it best, as not to throw Peter on the bus, but like, he
Absolutely
described it,
throwing Peter under the
Yeah,
bus.
at PC Brown. If you
at
got any
PC Brown's
problems
way.
with
He
it.
described it as merchandise, and that's what it feels like.
Wow.
Like a soulless thing. Like, it's easy to look at it and be like, oh, this is cool, because what it is it's an RPG in the Dragon Ball universe where you play through the most of the Dragon Ball Z anime. You go from the start of the Saiyan arc to the end of the Buu saga, which is a whole chunk of storylines, and you relive the cool battles, and you do like RPG stuff, doing little missions, but like, I see through it. Like, it's like you've taken the Tenkaichi games, you've taken the Budokai games, the Xenoverse games, the same like extremely basic, like no depth to it, very little depth to it fighting system, and you've like strung it together using very rudimentary, surface level RPG systems, and I almost don't want to say this, but like people are settling for it. I feel like if I was to like just delude myself and say I'm really enjoying it, I would be settling for it. And I think in a world like post Dragon Ball Fighter Z,
right,
we should expect better. Like it feels like a soulless cash in. Like I was watching it because it recreates the anime.
So you know what's going to happen?
I know what's going to happen
Right.
in it. And I would watch iconic moments happening and think to myself, I should just watch the anime because like I'm not enjoying the fighting, and like there's parts of it that are like they skimped out on certain things because video games are still expensive to make, and you know that just suck out the charisma and the cinematic quality of some moments. There's things like there's an early moment where like one of the key characters, Gohan, is a child, and he's presented through the start as like just sniveling, crying, like spoiled brat, but actually he's secretly like one of the most powerful beings on the planet.
Right.
But like he only
Spoiler.
reveals that in the show when his dad's almost like being killed by someone, and like there's a moment where he erupts out of this like containment unit. He's in a spaceship.
It's like a seminal moment. You remember every frame of it.
I remember every single frame of like I can draw the pose. I can tell you where each bit of rubble is. I can tell you the way his tail like, and the way like dramatic moment when he erupts out of there, and everyone on the battlefield field just looks at him, and it's like this kid about to unleash. In the game, I was just like, they didn't set that up at all because to like land that moment, they show inside the containment pod, which is Raditz's like ship, and like he's getting frustrated and he's crying, and you can hear like stuff happening around him, and then it builds to this moment. In the game, it's just like a couple of frames.
Right.
Like the character looks at the thing, kid erupts, and it just moves on. And like there's a sacrifice at the end of that battle where Goku sacrifices himself to kind of kill the bad guy, and like even that isn't animated properly. And there's like other moments where like Gohan being taught to fly for the first time by a character who is formerly like the biggest bad in the Dragon Ball universe, and like it's like, oh, he's taken this kid under his wing because Goku's now dead and he's going to teach him how to be a fighter, and like it's all right, we're going to teach Gohan how to fly. A text box appears and it's like, Piccolo taught Gohan how to fly. And it's like, what?
Right.
Come on, you're better than this. And like everywhere around the world is like, it's littered with these annoying emblems that are like very gamey, like immediately pull you out of the experience. The side quests are like fishing, help, beat up on this character that you're infinitely more powerful than. I played like 4 or 5 hours. And like you fly around a lot, but it just doesn't feel good. It's like it feels like controlling. I hate to bring it up, but like the gummy ship in Kingdom Hearts.
How dare you?
It doesn't feel good. Where like you're like Dragon Ball characters, they fly around like nimble, moving around. But like in this, like you leap up into the air, and then it's like the elevation thing where you're doing this constantly, and like it's like if you and you're flying like that, and then what they'll do is they'll create massive circles of the power-ups. If you fly through the middle, it doesn't pull all the power-ups in.
Right.
So you kind of like have to.
Oh no, you have to like.
Arc
it.
yeah.
Okay.
So you look like a complete
Like
doofus, just being like. It's like this is not cool at all. It's not like I'm not getting anything out of it. And then you get into the fights, and the fights are fine, but like they don't. There's no depth to it. Like over time you like earn new moves and etc. But like the fundamentals of it are not engaging. Like a good combat system is good from the very start, and then you layer intricacies on top of it. Not to like backseat game design, but like that's how the best combat systems work, right? From the very first moment you play Bayonetta, vanilla Bayonetta is amazing.
Feels right.
Feels
Batman.
good.
Feels good, yeah.
And then you get more abilities, and it gets better and better and better. This game is like it doesn't feel any different from the PS2, PS3 era.
That's what this
Dragon
all
Ball
sounds
game.
like. It reminds me of like every licensed game ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
Like a very short dev time,
Yeah.
limited resources, get it out.
exactly. And we were talking about this earlier. Like the problem is we're still at a stage where anime games are by default, people will be settling for it. There's no like the bar hasn't been raised for anime games.
But was Dragon Ball
Fighter Z, right?
Fighter
Yeah.
Z is
Fighter Z?
one game.
Yeah,
It's
that's
one
true.
game. Like we're at a stage now where open world games, good open world games, are so like frequent that people won't accept a bad one now. When a bad open world game comes out, we can throw a dart at a list of open world games and land on like 10 different amazing ones. Like
Go play one of them.
You can't have a bad open world game in a world where Red Dead exists, Metal Gear exists, you know, all these other many open world games, Assassin's Creed, whatever it may be. Even games that are like not technically open world, but are like pseudo open world, do their open worlds well. Like, that's the bar. The bar has been raised. Dragon Ball anime games, like Fighter Z, is just like one rung. So people fundamentally are still not at a stage where they expect better.
Yeah, expectations. And it sounds like wrestling games too.
Exactly.
Where, like, you're just kind of stuck with this.
To play it.
This like broken relationship. But you're just like,
you're either
there's
gonna,
no what else you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You can't play anything else. So
if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you either play the Kakarot or you play nothing. Like, you can play Fighter Z, and Fighter Z is an infinitely more better game. And it takes, like, the problem I have with anime games is, one, they're always boiled down to arena fighters. Two, they always completely miss the point. Like, the essence of what makes a good anime game is always missing. Fighter Z understands the essence of it. Like, rivalries, incredible comeback moments. And it takes these core moments and, like a special move like the father-son Kamehameha, which is a moment in Dragon Ball where Gohan, he's in the teens now. He does this fireball, but like he's doing it to kill one of the biggest bad guys in the show. Like, and Goku's dead at the time, but when he's doing it, he's like evoking his father so like deeply that they show him doing the fireball, and behind him you can see like the image of his dad also doing the fireball. Like, they're connecting in that moment, and like something like that when it's put into Fighter Z, it's like the culmination of a battle between two people, like Sonic Fox and Goichi.
Right.
When that happens, like, that moment is infinitely more powerful. It feels like when it happened in the movie, because the tension around it, the fighting between the two people is the drama, and then it becomes this, you know, this amazing moment. And that's what it understood. Like, it took the essence of what made all these things cool, like collecting the Dragon Balls, they put it into that system. And this game is like a very soulless recreation. Like, all Dragon Ball fans have seen Dragon Ball now. There's only so many times you can retell the story.
Yeah.
We've all heard it. And genuinely, this feels like a moment where the developers, Bandai Namco, have gone, we can't make any more of this format of Dragon Ball game. We need a new format of Dragon Ball game for the next 5 years.
Right.
So they've gone RPG. And the next 5 years are going to be iterating on this RPG. Once they've backed that into a corner and milked it dry, it'll be another format. Dance game, and then they'll milk that and then do that. And it just feels like, I hate being so cynical about it, but like, I've reached a stage where bad anime games infuriate me, because I love anime and I see the storytelling potential in a lot of them just being squandered by arena fighters. Like, we've taken My Hero Academia came out, and My Hero Academia, like, you've seen it, it has fighting in it.
But that's not what makes it. Yeah,
It's not about that. It's about, you know,
the emotions.
Like, you watch My Hero Academia and it's just about so much more than just dudes punching each other. But these games, like the My Hero Academia came out, just reduced it to characters fighting. And it's just like, you've missed the point again. You're just cashing in on this license, and you're abusing the goodwill of people that, you know, other you know, the anime and the manga creator has built up. You're just cashing in on it, and it just makes me sad, and I just hate that it exists. And I'm glad that people like Kakarot. It's not for me. If you can find the fun in it, more power to you. I just expect better from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as someone who
You love anime, Jay.
doesn't
love
care
anime.
much for anime,
You love anime.
doesn't play any anime games, I remember seeing Dragon Ball FighterZ and thinking, like, I want to play this game because this game looks slick. It's a lot of fun. Like, it seems like a lot of fun. It seems pretty tight, like polished. So I played it, and I don't know, I didn't finish the story. It seemed pretty long, but I played a good amount of it, and I had a lot of fun. And when I heard about,
That's the most un-anime fan thing ever.
I know, right?
The story was too long for you, really?
Yeah, I was like, but then when I heard about Kakarot, I was like, I might be interested in trying it. And I think I saw like 30 seconds of gameplay, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing this.
It's not the one. It's not the one at all. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. Like, anime fans demand better. Like, please stop buying this trash.
I do wonder if the market is big enough for it. Like, I don't know. Like, it seems like anime is more popular now than it ever was. And it seemed like it was really popular 10 years ago. But yeah,
I should
often
say,
wonder.
I didn't review this game. Like, I'm not sure the eventual score that goes up on our website, it won't be reflective of GameSpot as a whole. I imagine it could be that our reviewers align with me, or it could be like they like it more than I do. Like, this is my specific opinion
Your stance.
about Fight. It's my stance on it. Yeah. I don't want there to be a
Solid
situation where being
disclaimer
like, yeah, I don't want the situation to be like, well, you gave it a 9 here, so what's going on? This is my opinion. Like, that's who I am. I am just a higher class of anime fan. Thank you.
Oh my god.
There you go.
Well,
An anime fan with an opinion.
There you go.
We found
Shocking.
one.
We found one.
speaking of anime, it looks like you also have an anime down here that you've been watching that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I've been watching Psychopaths 3. Do you guys know about Psychopaths? I've mentioned Psychopaths so many times.
recommended it to me so
I
many
always
times.
mention
It's
it.
on my
So, like,
list.
I think you'd like it as well. So here's my pitch for Psychopaths.
Okay.
Psychopaths is I don't want to compare it to Minority Report, but it's got similar things. It effectively takes place in a future where an AI has been developed that can measure and factor in your mental state and your kind of lifestyle to calculate the likelihood of you committing a crime.
Oh, it's
So it's like my Calm app.
yeah. I was going to
Minority
go for
Report,
Minority
right?
Report.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like Minority Report, but at the same time, what happens is, so like effectively, you're a there are people who are called latent criminals.
Yeah.
And people who have done like, there's hues, like you're kind of like, you have a crime coefficient hue,
Right.
and like certain people have done things that has clouded that hue that might not necessarily be illegal. Like
Okay.
you could work in law enforcement
Okay.
and have seen so many things that you're now technically unstable. So
Right,
even though
yeah.
you're a good person,
Right.
your crime coefficient is at the point where you're dangerous. So you effectively become an enforcer. So you get treated as like, you're now disposable.
Right.
So you are paired up with like a cop who's got a clear hue, but you do the dirty work.
funny. Okay.
Ooh.
It's good
So,
cop,
yeah.
Okay.
bad cop.
Yeah, so effectively that's it. Like you get treated as like a dog of the military or
Right.
of the police force. And like Psychopaths is about, the first season is about someone who figures out how to subvert the entire system and like
So
basically abuse the system to turn people who are perfectly fine into like, effectively people who are deemed
They're red as
red,
those,
like,
yeah.
and like the law enforcement will effectively kill those people.
Right.
So does everyone like in this world know that that's a thing that
That's-
exists,
that's
or
just-
is it like kind of clandestine? like
That's
this?
just the way it is. It's called
Okay.
the civil system. But like the first season explores the limits of it, and effectively it's all about how someone comes along, and he's a bit of a Moriarty type, and his whole goal is, I'm going to show you how this is all wrong,
Right.
and how it all, like, for his own gain, but it's all about that. And then it's an incredible like story and also world. I adore it. And
How many episodes in a season?
so it's about 20 episodes, 20
Okay.
minutes each.
When,
but like,
when does the Arena
reasonable.
Fighter come out for that game?
oh god, if they did that, there's one game. There's a game called Psychopaths Mandatory Happiness, which is perhaps a little closer to what you'd want. Like they understand that narrative is an important part of this.
Is this
it's-
old then?
Psychopaths is quite a few years old. Yeah, the game itself is a few years old as well. It was on PSN Plus for free for a while, but that's a visual novel basically.
Okay.
The story's not as strong, but it's at least understanding what's important about Psychopaths.
It tries.
So like, yeah, the first season was amazing. The second season was like, it was lower key. It gets into quite like moral and like philosophical deconstructions. But the first season was a little more like action focused. The third season it's wild. I'm like, I watched 2 episodes and it feels very, very complicated. It's reached a point where now there's one character who's effectively figured out how to connect with another person like emotionally, but
I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
same. But like he's able to do it so deeply that it becomes like almost a mental thing as well.
Right.
And they can almost feel and experience remnants of what they experienced. So like in a scene, it could be like, oh, someone was here, and they're able to like almost tune themselves to this person and figure out what they were, get like hints at what they were doing in the last moment. And it's all about like understanding a mission. Like a drone goes down and someone is killed, and this person seems to be just a run-of-the-mill accountant. So it's almost like they're figuring out why this happened.
It was a
And
murder mystery kind of
yeah,
to it too.
and behind the scenes, there's a clandestine group almost
of course.
playing
Always
with
is.
like
Oh.
using the various like AI systems that are like governing who's good and who's bad to play this almost like gambling game of chess.
Right.
So and like a character from previous seasons is kind of like constantly appearing, but it's unclear what her ending point in another season left her in a very grey area.
Gotcha.
Because obviously she started off as like a cool, like kind of like, I'm new cop, everything's good. But through what she experienced, ended up in a situation where she's not bad, but like is a little more of a danger to herself and other people. So it seems like she's pulling some strings to try and unravel what she's seen in the entire time. But it's incredible, like universe, world building, just really fascinating, like really well written. It's like it almost feels like, I hate to bring it back to Disco Elysium, but like, you know how dense Disco Elysium is?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I can pick at so many parts of this and it's really satisfying. That's what it's like, where you're like, oh, I want to understand what crime coefficients are. How does the virtual world impact, how does VR impact you as a person? Like if you experience something in VR.
You know how it impacts you.
It makes you like motion sick. But like, what happens to someone who's like a victim of a crime? Like there's a scene in that I think in the first season where someone's sexually assaulted, but because of the trauma that they experienced, their hue is now clouded, which means like they are a candidate for enforcement.
Right.
Like they're technically a criminal. Like what's the limits of the system there? How do you work around that? What are you obligated to now arrest that person? They've done nothing wrong. Like, and how is it? What happens when someone appears that crime is normal to them? They're like a serial killer, for example. A serial killer doesn't think that they're doing anything bad.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, do their people exist where they can commit a crime, but because it has so little impact on them,
disassociated.
they just aren't changing their hue or like their crime coefficient. Effectively, they're going invisible. What happens there? It's like really fascinating and like
it sounds much deeper and way more thorough than Minority Report.
yeah, exactly. And it's like it's really, I highly recommend it. The third season. It's the problem with it is it's never been super popular, and I think it's partly because it is quite dense and it is quite. It's not. It's.
What you watch it on?
I watch it. The third season's on Amazon Prime Video.
Cool.
The first season I think is available on like Crunchyroll and Netflix. It's one of those things where it looks very cool and almost like, oh, I'm gonna watch an anime and it's gonna be like cool stuff happening. And then you're like, whoa, this is real heavy, man. So that's why I feel like it hasn't always taken off, and the writer behind it is like a well-known like manga artist, mangaka who's like known for delving into like the darker sides of storytelling, society, and that kind of stuff. It's fantastic. Cool. I highly recommend it to everyone.
Psychopaths.
More on that on your anime podcast, Tamanime.
Yeah, Tamanime coming soon. It's actually we came
Tamanga.
That's better.
You could do the paper version.
We came up with the video series for anime that we pitched. It was called Finding Weibo.
Yeah. I still think we should do that.
I was wearing a Finding Nemo glasses.
Lucy, you've been watching some shows too.
Yeah, I haven't really been playing much. I dipped into the Overwatch Lunar event. It's good. New skins. It's a capture the flag mode that we will never play. Pick and Ban's allegedly coming soon. Need some more heroes, but Pick and Ban's allegedly coming soon. I actually spent most of my long weekend just watching a bunch of stuff on Netflix. So my roommates, Jen is a fellow crime Murderino aficionado.
What we call ourselves.
And that new Aaron Hernandez documentary was on Netflix.
Oh,
and
right.
So
my brother watched that. He said it was really good.
It's really good. And I suggested it because I was like, well, it's got football in it, so that's something for Greg. Greg played Peace Walker the entire time. He has like this little separate screen, and he was just playing Peace Walker. So Jen and I got through, the three of us got through the whole thing in one sitting.
It's like 3 episodes?
3 hour-long episodes.
Okay, right. Okay.
But I didn't know anything about it. It's very well made. Some bits of it are massively overproduced.
Oh, really?
The title sequence has no business being that like
elaborate.
Is this a Netflix funded thing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's like my biggest problem with like these Netflix funded documentaries. It's just like you don't need to spend this much money on a title sequence.
And they also don't let you skip it, which is how much it's an indicator of how much money they've spent on that title sequence. Anyway, it's very, very good. So we did that. I blasted through all of Sex Education season 2 in under 24 hours.
I don't think I've watched that.
It's really good. Yeah. It's this weird mashup of aesthetics where they're in the modern day because they have mobile phones and stuff, but they're all dressed in this weird mix of clothing from like the 70s to the 90s. Okay. And they're in a place they're all British, but they're in what's based on an American high school.
Oh, I know what you're... Okay.
And then Gillian Anderson is... Fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. This sex therapist whose son is also going to this high school, and then she eventually gets way more involved in the school itself in the second season. It's
Is it
so
a British
good.
produced show?
I think so.
Okay.
And actually, in season,
She's done a lot of stuff in England. Right?
oh yeah. I think they do film it in the UK, but some of it doesn't look like the UK. Some of it looks like Switzerland or something.
Okay.
It's really
Oh, I like
weird
that.
mashup.
Yeah.
They use all these old vintage cars too, but then they have these rovers from the 90s.
Right.
It's
What's
really,
happening?
really interesting. Actually, the inside of everyone's house looks like this gaudy 60s wallpaper
Right.
with all these mishmash of patterns. It's really cool.
I kind of like it when shows and movies don't really announce what year it is. Like there's a
Yeah.
bunch of different. Like I think It Follows is one that I can.
Yeah,
It
I was about to mention the eggshell. Or the,
yeah.
do you remember that?
The phone, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? She has a phone that's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
a clam.
Yeah.
They never
Oh,
talk
God.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do
yeah,
you have
Sex
a clam
Education-
phone? I've got a clam phone.
It's so good. Blasted through it in like a day. But the other thing I've been watching is The Outsider.
Is it good?
I've watched it too.
Oh
I'm all
my
caught up. Yeah.
God.
It's
Oh,
good.
which one's this?
Is it good?
It's-
So it's it's a Stephen King book that I haven't right. When I was a teenager, I would read nothing but Stephen King, and then Cell came out, and I read Cell, and I went, I'm done.
Right.
So I haven't read any Stephen King since then. I think The Outsider was a couple years ago, if I remember. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know my roommate, she said she tried to read it and she was like, I couldn't do it. It was pretty boring. But I was like, you should try the show because I think the show so far is tense.
So
Why is it good?
if you cancelled your HBO subscription after Game
What
of
a
Thrones
mistake.
After
finished,
Watchmen, I did. After I
Do-
finished Watchmen, because it was really
Get
good.
it back.
get it back.
Okay.
Or,
I read-
or like wait until the whole thing's out and just binge it.
I
I'll get
read
a
one
freebie on
review and
something.
it was like, this is boring. I was
No.
like, oh, man.
All right.
So it is Ben Mendelsohn and Jason Bateman. And
Oh, okay.
Jason Bateman.
He directs almost all the episodes, I
yeah,
think.
which I didn't realize until I kind of hit the end credits yesterday. But so my favorite Jason Bateman, I think I said this last week, is creepy Jason Bateman.
Okay.
He's fantastic, obviously, as Michael in Arrested Development. But when he's in The Gift or Ozark and he has more of
Yeah.
an edge to him, it's really weird, and he does it really so well. So in this, obviously no spoilers, I'll just talk about the general premise, but it's in Georgia. Ben Mendelsohn is a police detective, and he gets called out because they found a dead child, like this 11-year-old boy.
It's pretty gruesome too. Like
Yeah, so I tried to start watching it last week, and I was a little bit drunk when I came in. And I'd ordered some chicken and I was just side betting it. And then they just show you this really dismembered body of a small child. I was
Oh my
like,
Looks
god.
like chicken.
I'm going to go back to Schitt's Creek.
We're saying like we're talking like young teenager.
11.
Okay, right, yeah,
Yeah.
because the child thing is a problem now. In my brain,
11-year-old boy.
with like, and it's a boy as
It's a
well, so
boy,
I should be okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't care about
Just
young
skip it.
boys dying.
and so then you have Ben Mendelsohn, troubled police detective in a small town. And very, very quickly, they sort of narrow in on a suspect, and it's Jason Bateman. And they and he's, you know, the football coach. Everyone
Right.
loves him.
Soft
He's
or
the-
baseball.
Oh,
I
I don't know.
you. Yeah.
Think about that Aaron Hernandez thing. And he's this family man, and he gets arrested, and
Pillar
then
of the community.
all just, you think it's just a regular police detective procedural, and that you can see where it's going. Halfway through the first episode, oh my god! They also play with music really well.
Right.
There's a lot of just ticking, and it just builds this tension so well. And last night, so I watched the first two episodes last night, and I started to watch the third one, and I got so stressed that I had to go to bed. But there's I'm not going to talk about what it is, but there's another component to the show that's so creepy and used so sparingly that I'm looking out for it all the time, and I
cool.
don't even know what it is or
Okay.
what impact it really has on the plot or anything. It's phenomenal. And yeah, like Jake said, Jason Bateman directs a bunch of the episodes because he won. Was it what did he win for? He beat Game of Thrones at the Emmys for directing an episode of Ozark.
Oh, really?
And he
Yeah.
beat, you know, like
Oh yeah.
the Incredible Battle of Winterfell. Well, the Incredible Battle of Winterfell. The episode before that was better.
The Dark Battle of Winterfell.
Couldn't see it. But no, he beat out Game of Thrones, and everyone thought they were a shoo-in for
Yeah.
Sapochnik was a
Flexing
shoo-in.
on everyone out there. Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Sam, it's me,
Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Pick up the red
It's-
phone, big man.
Blast to do that. And it's kind of, I'm annoyed because it's weekly.
I know.
Right. Oh, yeah,
So good.
What is this?
Oh, man.
Gotta wait for my shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? the 90s.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's great. I recommend.
You talking about sex education just reminded me I'm watching X-Files. That show is
Because
incredible.
there's an X in the name?
No, because Gillian Anderson.
Oh, okay.
I thought the X too. I was like, okay, whatever gets you there, I guess.
That show is on Amazon Prime Video, and it looks incredible. Like I think they must
The
have
old
filmed
ones?
it like on like super.
The big question for everyone here. Everyone here watch X-Files? Did you prefer... You never watched it? Okay.
I'm like I've never watched it in order, so I'm just like making my way down.
Okay. So I liked... God damn it. Do you prefer the like Smoking Man main thread ones, or do you prefer the like Monster of the Week episodes?
I like a Monster of the Week.
Me too.
Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week?
Does Victor,
Voice of God, Monster
yeah,
of the Week.
does Victor Toombs count as Monster of the Week, or
He comes. Yeah, I guess he's like a
I think
repeating character.
he's Monster of the Week that graduates?
Yeah,
too. So,
he's
like-
not the Smoking Man. Like what's going on in the
No.
background.
I like the Monster of the Week
Yeah.
ones, but they're more likely to have a weaker episode as well.
That's
good.
true.
So like the
Yeah.
one that I just did was the like the couple who was like a bank robbing couple,
Okay.
and like one of them gets shot and like transfers into the body of a cop that also got shot at the same time.
Okay.
And I was like, not feeling this one, lads.
No.
Not up for this
Skip.
one.
That's like TNG.
Yeah.
You just go boink.
I mean,
better
I'm
luck
watching,
next
I'm,
week,
I'm
folks.
watching him through because, like, one of the guys who works for us, he's our head of SEO, Chris Pereira, like a massive X-Files fan. So, like, I submit like Twitter length reviews to him every time I watch
Nice.
an
Of every
episode,
episode.
and like just to keep him updated. Yeah. So I'm
Good
like
show.
making my way through it. I'm excited to get to the bit where suddenly the T1000 replaces Mulder, which is going to be interesting.
What?
Do you remember that bit? Robert Patrick takes over Mulder.
Oh, really?
for a
Oh, he
while,
does. You're
Oh
right. Yeah,
my
yeah. And then
God.
didn't he get
I
a
just never-
spin-off?
I never put it together. Like when you said T1000.
Yeah, me
I was
too.
like,
I didn't either. I had a buddy or a buddy back home in my hometown, Waterford, and his next door neighbor looked identical to Robert Patrick. It was
Do you
like
know Robert Patrick's brother used to play in Nine Inch Nails?
really,
And then left just before they released the Downward
Course.
Spiral.
Oh my god, no, I'll never take off.
But no, I think it was creative differences. There were a lot of
He was shit
a
and
lot
they
of
were
drugs
good.
at that time.
Yeah, I'm like working my way through that series, which is still very good. I mainly brought it up to say like it
Gillian
looks
Anderson.
phenomenal, and Gillian
Right.
Anderson,
Looks phenomenal.
Good lord, Gillian Anderson looks
David
incredible.
Duchovny.
and Duchovny as well. Like Gillian Anderson's hair and David Duchovny's hair,
they-
just so on point.
Did they both end up in shows where sex is the
Sex
main
is the
theme?
thing. Yeah.
Because
Oh,
he was in
Californication.
Yeah.
Oh,
Californication,
yeah, okay.
There you go.
Her
something to
Instagram,
watch.
by the way, is
Incredible.
Oh, really?
fantastic.
Yeah.
Just fashionable. She's like a real fashionista. As
Oh,
well,
she
right?
has her own fashion line,
Oh,
but it's
yeah,
not
I'm
just
not
that. It's
surprised.
whenever she's doing stuff around sex education, she posts pictures of things that slightly look phallic. or-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like
Very
penis of the
intimate.
day and yoni of the day. I think to avoid Instagram's filters.
Yoni.
Yeah, she's very into innuendo in that
She's
thing.
very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess to continue off these shows, I've like binged through all of Succession.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
I've never watched
really
that.
good.
I'm like halfway through season 1.
Season 2 just gets better. Like I can't say enough good things about that show. The acting is incredible. Like it was Brian who plays Logan Roy. I don't remember.
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox
yeah.
is absolutely incredible. He plays that
Professor
character
Brian
so
Cox?
No,
Sorry.
the guy from X-Men.
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
well. Oh yeah, he is an X-Men too, huh?
Just imagine the show that's all
Yeah,
about like
Colonel Stryker.
That's right too. I was like,
No.
what else have I seen him for?
There-
Striker.
I'm not being funny. I think there was a genuine X-Men 2 reference in one of the episodes of Succession
Oh.
because what is it he says to Jason, his
Get
son
out
at
my
X-Men
head,
2?
Charles.
No, he says something and then there's a bit in Succession, I can't remember what the line is, but he says it in the exact same way, like whispering in someone's ear.
Right.
And I was sat there going,
I
I want to
this.
believe.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video someone did on
Good
Twitter
X-Files
last
reference
year of thank you of someone playing every part and it's Logan won't share his M&Ms.
Yeah.
No, I need to see this.
That video
It
is
is
amazing.
Incredible because he does all the dressing up. He dresses up like Shiv and Tom and oh my god.
Do you know
Have you
what
seen
that
Succession?
show's about?
No. It's something about it's like a
So it's-
super rich family business
Yeah.
who's going to take
Yeah,
over.
so it's like
It's like Future Publishing.
Okay, that's a reference not many people are going to get.
it's like a giant media corporation that's
Okay.
owned by
Oh.
a family.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, you were far off.
And then the dad, this is pretty early on. The dad has like I forget, a stroke or something like
That was
that.
the first episode, yeah.
Yeah, so then they try to figure out who's going to basically take over for him.
Is one of the Culkins in it?
Kieran,
Yes,
Kieran.
he
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Very good.
But yeah, that show is very good.
Banging theme song too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
the
it
theme
on?
song is good. I will say the first 2
HBO.
episodes
There you go.
I had trouble getting into,
The
but
first 2
Do you
episodes.
guys have an ad for HBO in the podcast or something?
Yeah.
I wish.
Dark Souls and HBO, the two,
From
two big
Software
things.
and
There is a
HBO.
new Armando Iannucci thing that started at the weekend.
Oh, what is it?
I don't know. It's like you know the
It's a space thing.
Yeah, it's you know the episode of Futurama where they go on the cruise.
Yeah.
Looks like that.
Oh, I know.
The space
Yeah,
cruise
yeah,
in
yeah,
Titanic.
yeah.
Because there's something about the ship not being able to turn and it can only go in a straight
Is
line.
that Hugh Laurie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Hugh Laurie
And it's
in that.
Josh Gad and the lady who's actually in the thick of it, who plays the main woman from season 2.
Right.
I'm very excited to watch that this weekend too. HBO's great.
Americans know him from Veep, I guess. Did he do that as well?
Yes, he did
Yes.
Veep.
Some of the other ones didn't make it. What was the movie he did again? Because
Oh, in the loop,
in the loop, yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a thick of it sort of.
which was the thick of
Ameri-
it with all the same characters, but
Yeah.
they couldn't have the same names.
Yeah, it was really strange. Yeah.
And he's just done the that new one with Tilda Swinton and the voice of Paddington, Ben Whishaw, and it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's like someone, and Dev Patel is in it.
Ooh.
And I saw the trailer and I have no idea what it's called, and I regret bringing it up.
There you go.
Move on.
Anyway, I mean, other than that, I'm still playing Modern Warfare. It's the most of a Call of
Right.
Duty game I've ever played, which I'm surprised by. I
Mhm.
actually maybe like Modern Warfare 2 I played more of, but still enjoying that. I don't know if I have much else to say on top of what I've already been saying about that game. And then there's another game I'm playing that I can't talk about, but I'm very excited to talk about next week because it's very good.
Ooh.
And I think
You say
people are
what
gonna like
country it's made in? Or state?
What
Oh,
state
yeah.
is it made
How
in?
close can we get to the line before we step over?
Not saying anything. Other than that, it's very good, and I think people will be excited because it's like a
You
nice.
can say what the game is.
People-
You
I can say what the
can't-
game. I just
You
can't
just
say.
can't say what you think about it.
Well,
You
I've
just
already
said
said
it's
I've
very
really
good.
liked it, so
you can't.
now I can't say.
you
Now I
can't
can't
say
say.
what
Backs of an
Yeah,
coin.
Tell us about a different
Yeah,
game.
you biffed this.
But I will say, I think people will be excited to play this game because it comes out in a dry season, especially, and with all those game delays.
Okay.
I think it's a good game that will
Dry. Is that a
hopefully
hint? Dry season?
dry spell. I guess.
Desert.
Dry spell.
Combat
Desert.
2. A new mod for
But-
Battlefield?
I've walked past you
Doesn't
when
take
you played
place
it.
in the
I know
dra-
exactly.
Yeah.
what you're
Desert
saying.
Strike.
Oh, that'd be
You'll never
God,
know.
Bring back Desert
Until
Strike.
next
Come on,
week.
EA. I
Uh,
played it like 2 weeks ago. It's still hard.
okay.
It's still rock
Real
hard.
rock.
Desert Strike.
Oh,
I thought it was just because I was shit at games because I was
No,
a
no,
kid.
no.
No,
No.
the game's hard.
Yeah.
I've gone back to games like that and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that was just
easy.
bad. And then I play it and I'm like, no, this was hard.
Yeah.
I'm like that with the original Fallouts. I'm like, yeah, I'm bad at
Oh
this.
yeah, they're
man.
rock hard. Yeah.
I'm bad at this. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yikes.
Anyway, moving on to the news, we're going to talk about Cyberpunk
News.
2077 getting delayed and Dying Light 2 getting delayed. Dying Light 2, that kind of like slipped under the radar. They announced it, I think,
Yeah.
Monday, right? When
Yeah.
a lot of people, at least in the United States, were off on holiday and it was right
Tamoor,
after
please.
Final Fantasy.
Tamoor, please.
Is that a Techland mug?
Yes.
Come on.
The only mug that isn't claimed, all right?
Actually,
Poor Techland.
Tam got me this mug.
What is it?
Good mug.
Charlie Brown?
It's Charlie. Well, yeah,
peanuts.
Linus.
I should get one for myself as well.
It's fantastic.
Oh, that's
very
rad.
good.
That's really cool.
Because I had another one and it got stolen.
Someone
Yeah.
stole
By
it?
tomorrow, I
Well,
bet.
it was on my desk. I have no
I'm
idea
the
where
one
else
who
it would
got
have
the
gone.
original one.
I
You
have
got that
quarters on my
huge-
desk that people have been taking.
Kurt said that too. We should talk about this after.
Yeah. There's definitely a quarter thief in the office.
But yeah, anyway, Dying Light kind of, I feel like a lot of people didn't notice that. They picked a good time to delay it because everyone's talking about Final Fantasy and Cyberpunk.
Yeah. What was
And
the
then they're
original
kinda like,
release for it?
Spring 2020 was
Yeah,
supposed to
I
come
think
out.
it was
And now
probably.
it-
This will benefit them more than anything else.
It doesn't
Oh, yeah.
have a date, right?
Yeah, it's an
It's just like-
indefinite
it's just
delay.
whenever.
Yeah.
They said in the next couple months they should have more to say.
Right.
I
That
have the
first
quote
game,
here.
man.
I'm not going to read it because that's pretty much what it was.
That first game was a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first game
and they
was great.
supported it
Yeah.
so long.
So,
And
like, I think they've earned a lot of goodwill from their audience, and I think they see the potential in what it could be.
Mm.
Yeah, they
so,
got
like,
Chris Avalon writing it, right?
Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
like branching stories.
Writing
and,
like
Yeah.
1 million games right
I know,
now,
yeah,
isn't he?
absolutely. Yeah, it looks like they're actually trying to do something substantive. I mean, even the last Dying Light, like, had lots of interesting, like, what would you call it, like, environmental stuff that bled into gameplay, like with the day-night cycle and just like
Yeah.
the way you could tackle all the objectives whatever way you wanted, and like it was, and the co-op nature of that game as well. Like, there was a lot going on.
I feel like playing it
Like
again now.
systems, they're very systems-heavy games.
Yeah.
And it's cool that they're like the narrative, like systemic narrative stuff they're doing is like, I'm sure that is anytime anyone's making anything that's kind of anyway new or new in a genre, you're bound to run up against a lot of like unforeseen problems.
It's called, I call it the Ken Levine problem.
Yeah, the narrative Legos. We're still waiting.
He's like, it's Meccano now.
Yeah, no, it's Duplo now. he's at the reduce it down a bit. Stickle bricks. You know.
Also, narrative Lego. Ken, please.
I love that, Tim. If you go to his Twitter profile, doesn't it link to
I think he still said, yeah.
It links to a GameSpot article where he uses the phrase narrative Lego for the first time. That's in his bio.
I was on, I was on
There's,
NPR with him like 5 years ago when he was just talking about it.
The GDC talk I think we have on YouTube, it banged for
Yeah,
100,000
it's great.
views.
I think it links to that.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it links to that. Yeah,
Right.
it's a
Got
great
an interview with him too.
Great little interview and like talk about it. Yeah,
Which, fingers crossed. You know, Avalon on it as well. It's It looks
Yeah.
really good.
Where's Dead Island 2? I know it's not Techland anymore.
They did that on too. Someone did.
No.
it's-
It got given to,
Jaeger,
Sumo
right?
was the last.
Jaeger
people.
first.
then
Right.
Sumo.
and then
And
it was
then-
Sumo.
It never came out.
No.
I remember, I think my first year here, I like had to edit, like people went to Gamescom and they sent back some footage and I had to edit a video of Dead Island 2. And it seemed like they were playing it and like they'd, like,
I think I
was-
played it.
Yeah, like people
Jaeger
played it
version.
and like,
Was that
it
that
didn't-
trailer with the guy running?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
God, that was ages
weird.
ago.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like 2014.
What if it's an IP problem or if it bans
I think it's
that
a
many
game
studios?
problem.
Yeah, so it
I don't
was-
think they were happy with whatever Jaeger did.
It was
Right.
Jaeger, then it went to
Sumo.
Sumo. But I
Am I
don't-
imagining that Dam Busters has it?
I
now?
thought Dambuster had it for a while as well.
Were they based in the UK?
Mm.
They,
'Cause
so they
Sumo's
were
what,
the,
Liverpool?
home front team.
Oh,
the
right,
new
okay.
home front team.
Is that ex Crytek?
Ex Crytek, yeah. So yeah,
Which was
Dambuster-
ex Free Radical? Because they got
yeah,
bought by
yeah. So I think
Yikes.
Dambuster currently has it. November 2019 was the last time it showed up.
mean, that
They
was
still
like 3
occasionally
months ago.
tweet about
Yeah,
it.
Dambuster Studios has it currently, but
Cool.
it's just MIA.
That's why they're holding off on the release date for Dying Light 2, because just in case they come out and they're like, oh, shit.
Don't
some
release
space.
anywhere near there.
No, absolutely not.
It's weird though, because I remember liking Dying Light 1 despite Dead Island 1 despite all the bugs. And I was
Yeah.
It
excited
was a
for
fun jank.
I was excited for Dead Island 2, and then I played Dying Light, and I was like, oh, well, this is pretty much their sort of spiritual successor,
Yeah.
Techland spiritual successor, but it was still kind of buggy, but it was just more fun and like more fluid and more frenetic. And now I have like, I don't really need another Dead Island 2. Like I'll still probably play it. Like
Dying Light 2
I'm
as well.
excited for Dying Light 2 though. Like that looks fun. Did I just say, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
No, you got it right.
I did get it right? Okay.
You got it right, yeah.
Yeah.
Excited for Dying Light 2. I don't think I need a Dead Island 2 at this
That's
point.
the one.
Yeah, there we go.
How sad are you about Cyberpunk? Because you tweeted about 3 days before they announced, I really hope it doesn't get
Yeah,
delayed. And I was like,
April
You
16th.
could feel it though, right? Couldn't you?
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
never
like-
felt like dead on for it.
Yeah.
There's that clip that we put up. of,
April
like-
16th is my birthday. So I was like, this is going to be the best birthday ever. Cyberpunk is coming out on my birthday. I was so jazzed when they announced that release date. And then it just got closer and closer. And we're like, we haven't really heard anything. I don't think this is going to get delayed. And sure enough,
There it is. It's gone.
the statement they have are, we are currently at a state where the game is complete and playable, but there's still work to be done. CD Projekt Red wrote in a press release embedded below. I forgot to delete that. This is from the article on GameSpot.com. Make sure to check that out. Night City is massive, full of stories, content, and places to visit. Due to the sheer scale and complexity of it all, we need more time to finish playtesting, fixing, and polishing. We want Cyberpunk 2077 to be our crowning achievement for this generation, and postponing launch will give the precious months we need to make the game perfect.
Oh, did you see Corey replying about that?
Corey
Because
Barlog, yeah.
someone, I don't know who it was, wrote up an article and it was like, Cyberpunk delayed because it doesn't run well on current gen consoles.
So,
And
yeah, and Corey was just like, yeah, nothing runs good until like the
What was
last.
it?
Yeah, until
But,
like
like,
2 weeks before.
If anyone has earned the kind of like trust, it's them. They delayed The Witcher,
Witcher 3,
a bunch
yeah,
of
they
times.
did.
last
Yeah.
time. And look at that game.
And Witcher
It's-
2, let's be honest, like Witcher 2, I feel like that console version was when that game was good.
Yeah.
Like wasn't buggy.
Yeah,
so,
like the re-release enhanced edition
yeah,
of it.
that
Yeah,
was when
Like,
it kind
I
of
think-
got fixed.
yeah. I think they've kind of clearly learned, like, instead of making an enhanced edition a few months later, let's just take the extra time and make it a banger from the outset. And like the games,
Well, now they
always,
can afford to
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
right?
The games are always like the original versions of these games are always fine. Like, and they're just like rough around the edges, but like CD Projekt is now at a level where rough
CD
Projekt is now at a stage where like rough around the edges doesn't play for them. Like they're like S-rank developer now.
Well, they were
So, like,
employing
they'll
3
get-
times more people
Yeah,
than they
yeah.
had on Witcher, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
they kind of need to, you know.
Yeah, and like the expectation for that game,
Yeah.
like even they have to do everything in their power to make sure they can nip and tuck as many things as possible, and like they've like earned the goodwill. Like I said, like they're probably one of the best games ever made. So
Yeah, I feel like they've hit that, not quite there, but they have a similar mindset, or they can't have a similar mindset to like Rockstar at this point.
yeah,
right?
I think
Where
I
they
think
can-
they're close to Rockstar. I think they are at Rockstar levels, like not playing in the same.
maybe not in terms of sales,
Yes,
but like in
yeah,
terms of the
exactly.
kind of
in terms
worlds
of
and
like
games they build.
prestige
Yeah.
and types of games that they build for sure. Yeah.
Did you hear the IGN UK podcast last week? A friend of the show, Matt Perslow, was telling this sort of story about how I think it was the original Witcher, he bought it on disc for
Oh, yeah.
PC. And then they released the enhanced edition or all the fixes months later. But because they were doing that through Steam, he couldn't get the patch. So he had to email CD Projekt and they sent him a zip file
Oh, really?
with all the fixes.
That's nice.
I was listening to this and I remember it because I was working retail at the time,
Ah.
and like the enhanced edition came out, and they were like, "How do I get
Help
it?"
me.
And they were
Yeah.
like, you need to email CD Projekt. They will sort you out. I can't help you with that. It's
goodness.
weird because I think I was like at retail for The Witcher 2 as well.
Right.
So like I was like both of my The Witcher releases have been through retail.
Yeah.
And 3 was the first one. I was like, no, I'm at this.
Get a review copy of
free.
this
I'm
bad
done.
boy.
Yeah, I'm done. But yeah, that was it. And that is a wild world where you need to do, and it was like a zip file
Yeah,
that
it was
they
a zip.
sent, and like you just couldn't share it. You had
Yeah.
to show like email receipt, and it was
Yeah.
wild.
I mean, but this is also a company that was like founded off of figuring out how to get pirates to stop
Yeah.
buying games, right?
They
or
are-
to start buying
Yeah.
games rather. So
Original
Yeah, I
pirate
mean, like,
material.
everything on GOG, right, is still
Oh, yeah.
GOG is still DRM free, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
can-
yeah.
it's interesting. I feel like the problem I've always heard when we recently actually did an interview, it came up again with Gen Z from Supergiant about when they did Transistor, and one of the problems that a lot of devs have when creating sci-fi games, or contemporary games at all, is that there's way more expectation about like specific details in those worlds. Like we'll usually gloss over stuff in fantasy games, you know, think too much about
Right.
the way things are because we're not in that world. Whereas if you enter a sitting room in like a contemporary world or a near future aesthetic, anything that like that's a weird looking toilet, you know what I mean? So it requires like a much keener eye, or like once you get down to the end of it and you're refining the edges, there's suddenly a lot more edges to refine. So I was wondering about this one where, because obviously the scale of the city, you can't have anything near as big as what they made with Witcher, because it was all open out in the you're out in the world, you know, forests and whatnot. It's not the same as the super dense cities. But then also those dense cities need to be like, you know, you saw the demo at E3, right? Like everything looked like so
Yeah, like,
interesting. And
every
intricate
building
and-
looked like there was a door you could go in and
Yeah.
see what was
Yeah.
inside, and
and so many advertisements and just layers upon layers of like reality that they had, and you're thinking like, all right, how do you extend that out over like a Witcher length game?
well, I have a
Pretty difficult.
feeling. I don't know if I've talked about my theory. I think you're going to go to the moon in this game.
The moon.
I think you're going to go.
Why the
Yeah, because the moon plays a big role in like the pen and paper RPG.
Oh, it does.
Well,
Yeah.
we still haven't played.
I know we haven't played yet,
We need
but
to,
Yeah,
we
what's
need to
going on
start.
with that?
Also, quick one. They announced a Dishonored RPG
Yes.
today that we are playing over the
Tabletop.
summer.
Oh yeah,
Tabletop
yeah, I saw that.
summer game.
really?
Yeah.
Dibs on Corvo.
Dibs on Emily. But also,
Wait.
it's that game series, Dad. I
dibs
want
on the outsider. Wait, what is it?
it. No, it's
Yeah,
like
it's
a
the
tabletop
outsider.
RPG.
I'll take Billy.
Billy
Oh,
Love.
right,
Billy Lark.
Billy Lark.
He is.
We should
What a
probably move on.
series that is.
Give me Dishonored 3.
We've been going on a while.
Cowards.
But the next big piece of news, Byleth coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You guys tried to guess last week. No one got it right.
Callie did. She wasn't.
She
here
yeah,
yet.
she
But
thought it would be.
before it was. She was like very confidently at like lunch. She was like, "It's gonna be Byleth."
Who's Byleth?
Um,
What's a Byleth?
The main character in Final Fantasy Three Houses, but
Final Fantasy 3
Final.
Houses?
Oh my God! Fire Emblem Three Houses.
accidentally, we like the facade has slipped
Finding
there.
Weibo, there he is.
Finding Weibo.
Oh my God! I'm leaving.
That's
it.
This
Show's
is the
over.
real Jake. This
Pack
is
it
the real
up.
Jake. This is the real Jake. He watches anime. He plays Final Fantasy. Dragon Quest fan. He's got pictures of Yuji Horii at his desk.
Exposed.
Anyway. Yeah, Byleth is coming to Super Smash Bros.
Finally, a
Ultimate
Fire Emblem character. Good
from
stuff.
Fire Emblem, the main character.
God, I didn't know either, and I've played that game.
Yeah, people were mad about it. People were really mad about it.
Get Hilda in.
Yeah.
That's why.
So
She's the best one.
Like I think let Sakurai do what he wants. He's already put in so many great characters in this game. We've got Banjo. Like Banjo is in this game, and people are mad because he put in a Fire Emblem character. And Sakurai's favorite series of all time is Fire Emblem. So just like let them have it. They're gonna add 6 more characters. The way people are responding is just
it is wild.
infuriating. Like just relax.
So Steve Watts on our news writing team put up an article which I thought was a nice balanced way to kind of tackle it and look at the response to it from a more like reasonable kind of point of view. People are just like real upset about it, but his point was like when they talked about the DLC fighters, I think it was Reggie that said it. It was at the Game Awards. The line he used was like, "These will be surprising. Like they'll come from outside and they will surprise and shock you or whatever." And the reason why people are, and every character thus far has done that.
Yeah, Banjo.
Like Banjo, you know,
God, Joker.
effectively, yeah, Joker.
Oh, right.
A bunch of other characters, Terry Bogard, for example.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one that breaks the trend where it's unsurprising in every way. It's a Fire Emblem character, Nintendo property, his favorite.
It's surprising
franchise.
how unsurprising it is.
It's exactly, yeah. And I think that's what people are responding to in an unreasonable way.
Yeah.
But like, I thought that was a good, smart kind of assessment of the thing, even if it doesn't forgive the vitriol that is being thrown around it. Like, relax, let the man, like Jake said, like he's good. They've given us so many amazing characters already.
Yeah, there's like 78 or something ridiculous, and by the time they're done, there's gonna be almost 80. There's gonna be over 80 characters in this game.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm definitely one of those people who was disappointed. I woke up at 6 a.m. to see whatever that was.
4 a.m. to write that. I was upset. I was like, what?
Yeah, I looked at it and I saw it was Byleth, and I was like, well, I'm going back to bed. And I went back to bed and woke up, and turns out everyone was pissed.
Yeah.
Like, well,
yeah.
what can you do?
Good Byleth.
Oh.
There's 6 more coming. They announced instead of 5,
6 more Byleths on the way.
there's going to be 6 more 6 more characters coming. And the last piece of news is Ninja Theory announces Project Mara.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw this.
Saw the video.
Yeah, the video.
Did you watch the video?
I watched the video, yeah.
What was up with the stabilization on that walkthrough?
I did notice that too.
Was,
I was like,
Lucy getting motion sick. That was making me want.
I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah,
Good,
It was
that's
really
good looking
strange.
out.
Sorry,
It's odd,
nothing
yeah.
to do. Sorry, I shouldn't be video critiquing. Things
I mean, like,
in the trailers.
I mean, to be fair, like reading the description, Project Mara will be a real world and grounded representation of mental terror based on the lived experience accounts and in-depth research. Our aim is to recreate the horrors of the mind as accurately and realistically as possible. Project Mara will be an experimental title and a showcase of what could be a new storytelling medium.
So what they showed was basically a logo and what looked like it didn't look like it looked like video to me. Did it look like video to you?
Well,
The shots of the hall that they had and the typing on
yeah,
the
the hall
screen?
did the typing on the screen, but then they cut to like shots that looked like they were from Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, but I don't think they were.
You were right.
But it looked like it was still like rendered in that engine. So I don't know.
Yeah.
They're showing a brain waves and stuff.
Yeah, it seems very like we are thinking like this seemed to me like just them trying to almost like a STEM expectation for Hellblade 2 maybe to be like, look, this isn't like a big AAA, like it'll be a smaller thing again, but we're also working on all this other stuff as well. Did they get acquired by Microsoft? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
they did.
yeah,
Okay.
Microsoft
To
Studio,
play
yeah.
devil's advocate a little bit here, they did such a great job at representing mental illness
That's 100%
in
what they're doing,
Hellblade.
Yeah.
But why are they doubling down on that for Project Mara? Like, it will be a real world and grander representation of mental terror. which is fine if you're making a horror game. But then it's like, based on real-lived experience accounts and in-depth research, our aim is to recreate the horrors of the mind as accurate and realistically as possible. It's like, but why?
So like they
Like, are you doing that to like make a horror game, or are you doing that to highlight the struggles that people live with? Is highlighting those struggles better and more beneficial than making something that could help someone that has those terrors? Like, that's the bit I appreciate if they're doing the research and all that stuff, but it's a bit weird.
I guess like it's hard to say. Like, I'm trying to think back to playing Hellblade. Was there like it does end in a way that kind of Senua's journey is like she grows. Like she struggles throughout the game, but towards the end of it, there's like a moment of realization and peace, and she kind of comes to him. I think that it's certainly an interesting approach for them, because like I remember talking to Tamim, like the studio head at Ninja Theory, or like they call themselves Head Creative Ninja or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Like, and he was like very, very passionate about the kind of the process of learning about psychosis for Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice, and like it was filtered through, that information was filtered through a very specific lens to create Hellblade. I don't know if they're like, the wording makes it sound like they're funneling everything they learned down a very like specific genre path. Like we're gonna make a dark horror game, but it could be that the representation, you know, is kind of like more. It's representing the things that happen inside the mind in various ways, and hopefully that includes like how to, you know, kind of deal with that stuff and how build. I think the thing that they were really proud of is it helped other people gain an understanding of what it is like to have psychosis.
Yeah, which is
Even
very
if it
important. Super important.
Even if it is like on a very basic level, like through binaural audio and kind of the things that you see in development tricks. And I think that's what they're trying to do now, like make that part of their unique MO and like their unique selling point.
Yeah.
Like how do we take these things that people suffer with and kind of represent them in a way that others understand, and not necessarily like how do we take this thing that someone suffers with and turn it into a video game mechanic.
Well, part of me kind of thinks this may not even be like a video game, you know, like based on that description. I mean, I don't know what else it would be, but I feel like they've got that Microsoft money, and maybe their team's probably a lot bigger, and they're like, oh, you know,
that's a great shout. Like I didn't even think
try other things, because I could see that happening. And this sounds bad, but when I read the little press release or whatever, the first thing I thought of was Project Milo.
Right, yeah.
Just because it was like kind of like weird experimental thing that never really made it anywhere. Not that this won't, but like just at first glance, it was like, okay, this is something very different, I guess.
Yeah. And like Microsoft is kind of interested in kind of like that accessibility and almost like the health part of it. Like they've got the adaptive controller, which is something completely different, but like that's a way for people to kind of like engage people and bring other people in and enable them to play games in different ways. And like it's almost like helping the other way around, like helping people who play games to understand others who are, you know, going through certain things and dealing with you know, day-to-day issues that you wouldn't be able to see on the face of it. So they definitely have a history on exploring that stuff, and it makes sense that if they wanted to do it, it would be Ninja Theory that does it. I feel like this is a Ninja Theory led initiative more than anything else.
Time,
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, talking to Rod Ferguson on Audio Logs, he was talking about, you know, Microsoft encouraged them to have inclusive design workshops, and then they apply it to games and stuff. I think the thing that's just stuck in my craw about that press release is that it's the phrasing of, we just want to show what proper representation of mental illness and whatever, and it's like
totally.
But
it's
you're
like,
you're
wanna
focusing
play
on
that,
on that part. You're not focusing on what it's then going to do to people. Are you doing it to educate? You're doing it to help people? That bit needs to kind of come up in the messaging a little.
Yeah, it's vague. It's a very vague announcement, and it's within a genre or a storytelling or even a focus like mental health. That even now, which I feel like this, you know, 10 years ago there was no mental health games, or you know, now you can swing a cat, and there's at least, you know, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue, and a lot of game design is sort of like lent into it, which is really cool. But yeah, it is. It considering how much of the narrative or the promotion of Senua's Sacrifice or the Hellblade, both games have been around that, it does seem strange that they're also doing another one. Like I'm with you. I'm like, oh, like what's the unique aspect of this one then? I guess. Yeah, it's funny. Got Microsoft are doing like between this and Double Fine. like I know it's adding like different colors to the rainbow, which is really important when they're trying to like create like an idea of what the Xbox is, and like, especially when it comes to having unique IP, which they've had a massive struggle with this generation. But it is. I'm interested to. It'll be really weird to see how like these companies that have kind of like scraped along doing a lot of this stuff, or like, you know, with I feel like with Hellblade or with Ninja Theory in particular, doing a lot of commercial work so they could do their sort of projects that meant a lot to them. It'll be interesting to see how what happens if Microsoft are more hands off with them and Double Fine, like what they end up coming up with.
Yeah, I mean, especially, did you see some of those like development diaries for Hellblade where they like set
they were
up the
great.
motion
They're really good.
capture,
Yeah.
like on the ceiling, and it's like this really janky setup. It was just like dang,
awesome.
they like pinched every penny to get this game made, which is
We have a mini doc about that on GameSpot.
I think that's actually
Yeah.
how I learned about that, is because the
It's
mini
like
doc.
bringing back the AA game or something like that.
All right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, was it like a AAA game on a AA budget or
Yeah,
something?
something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, we've been going on a while, and we've got some questions. We got some questions for you, Danny, and then we have some listener questions. We'll go through these questions for you fairly quickly.
Sure.
They're just
fire.
from Twitter. The first one is from the wonderful Reb Ford. Danny, yes. From all your visits to various developers, what would you say the closest universal truth is? Is there something that stands out?
First of all, a great video on GameSpot.com.
Yep.
Mike Mahardy talking to Reb Ford
With,
about the.
inherited Dan Rackett's giant pencil, didn't he?
Yeah, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that's Dan
Yeah.
Rackett's one anyway. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he did. That's what was it? It was like what would every celebrity's
Oh, yeah,
Warframe
what would
be?
Warframe be?
Yeah,
For celebrities.
it was really good. Universal truth. I think maybe the thing that I've come to personally sort of understand or change my mind around when it comes to games is that like even the games that you think are like cynically made for money, like everyone on it, or maybe not everyone, maybe that's too broad, but like most of them are like breaking their arses off it, and they know like any problems that exist with games, most of the time the developers know, and it wasn't an issue of them not trying hard enough. Sometimes it was time, sometimes it was budget, sometimes it was the team composition, sometimes it was team politics, but like everyone's trying their best and really trying to make the best thing they can.
I would like to apologize to the development team behind Dragon Ball Kakarot. I'm so sorry.
But I think if there's one universal thing, actually, it's probably I remember when I was in the like working this side of the press, because it does feel different now doing the no clip stuff, because we're not sort of on the beat as much, like you're not like in time with everything as much, especially with reviews and news stuff, that like you kind of felt like you were in you felt victimized a bit, because you're always getting criticized for stuff. Like people are always criticizing you for review scores or for thinking something, or when I had my op-ed show, like, oh, but what about this or whatever. And then when you talk to developers and gamers as well, gamers feel that way too. They feel like they're getting nickel and dimed by studios or publishers, or like the game they liked, they made a sequel that I don't like that sequel. I preferred it was like that one. Why'd you make it more like New Vegas, not like Fallout 3? You know, like that type of thing. Right? And but then when you talk to developers, they feel the exact same way, because they're like, oh, everyone criticizes us. Like reviews are always bad, or like there's gamers who are giving out to us or saying we don't care or anything. So I think learning that like developers feel as isolated as everyone else, because they're just stuck in like Rebs in London, Ontario. We're working on that game right in a small community, small town. They don't feel like they're, you know, the part of this massive multi-million-dollar engine, or this game that's done really well. They feel scrappy. They were, you know, scrappy to the end with that. And I think when you meet developers, like there are those egos, which I think we ran into more here. Whereas like here, I was exposed to more. And it's definitely changed. You look at stuff like audio logs, you're talking to everyone, but like E3 stage show, you're generally talking to...
You get the media trained.
Totally.
This is the face. This is the PR marketing approved face of this game.
Confidence, everything, answer for everything, that type of thing.
Blazer over company t-shirt.
And a lot of those people, they're lovely people, but they give an impression of confidence. And I think that is actually what a lot of gamers react to, which is that they think there's so much confidence in these studios. You go talk to these people. Imagine talking to somebody who's been working on like the sound design for this one game in secret for 6 fucking years, and like, of course they care more than anyone else about what people say about their game. So I think more than anything else, it's that, and it's why I've like struggled to like do any op-ed stuff since I left, because I'm just like, they know. Like, what am I gonna say? You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's that's probably the thing. Everyone is, you know, scrappy, trying their best.
I think like it's similar to us. Right? A lot of places are like, I think that the the easy thing to do a few years back was when a game came out and you didn't like some aspect about it, you'd write about it.
Yeah.
And be like, I hate this part of this game because X, Y, Z should be done like this. No. But like, we've just become we're more aware of the fact that everyone knows. Like, people, there's no benefit to telling someone who knows that something's bad is bad, like, or is compromised. And two, like the general negativity around games is just like, it's just like all encompassing.
Yeah.
Like, and I know from like an editorial team, like we don't mince our words, but like these days, I think a lot of people, they edge towards like, how can I find something positive in, like, you look at stuff that Mike Mahoney does, for example.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the things that he does are finding the positive parts in games and like trying to find something small and like talk about this element of a game and like why it's good for him. And like I feel like a lot of people are doing that and everyone's leaning towards that now a bit more. So like that what you said there is like pretty much on the money for a lot of people.
But it's a funny balance, right? Because then if you start doing that too much, all you're doing is like blowing smoke up the arse and then you're just chill or whatever. Yeah.
I like I said, like we're as a team, it's something that we very much are aware of and focus on balancing. Yeah. Like we'll never be like, this game is bad, let's not review it. Or like, this game is bad, like let's sugarcoat it. Like we always tell it how it is. But like back in the day, it was like, we need an op-ed. Let's find something to pick on. Yeah. Like I'm not saying that's what we
even
did.
if you weren't saying that, you were just thinking it, or it was a gravity that was there that you could feel.
And it's like you can see it in the tone of like YouTube essays now.
Yeah, totally.
Back in the day, it was like every YouTube essay would be like, this is why this thing is bad. Yeah. Like X reasons why this is bad. Now it's more
how
like,
this game got murdered.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, this thing that's kind of like perhaps not super popular, there's actually something really cool in here. And that's the kind of tone of YouTube essays. And I feel like that's partly, whether consciously or subconsciously, a response to the general negativity around games. And also like the awareness that the people who make things are also aware of their flaws. Yeah. And like they don't need to be like kicked when they're down. Yeah. Let's try and find something positive. And I think that, at least for the people in this room, like that's something that we kind of gravitate towards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question.
Your Witcher video was really good last week, by the way.
Thank you.
Very good.
Next question. Would love to know what perspective his work with NoClip has given with regards to how games are made, opposed to, you kind of already answered that
question.
Yeah, the same thing.
They take a long time. Everyone works really hard. They're totally broken until the last minute. Because like especially with the Hades stuff we're working on now. Yeah, we're Supergiant, who are based in San Francisco, just down the road. Greg Savin, ex-editor of GameSpot, building the Bastion show on Giant Bomb where they showed that game being built. So we've been embedded with them throughout the development of Hades, and I have access to daily builds and weekly builds that they send out to the QA people. So whenever we're capturing gameplay for stuff as it's getting changed, or stuff that's like I need gameplay for it now because the video's going out in 2 weeks or whatever, and it'll get playing catch up. And like their game is actually like, they're probably the most disciplined, most like their version controlling and everything is like slick, but even at that stage everything is just like a broken mess. And it's funny when people say that. Like a good example of this actually was what was the game that came out near the end of the year that just needed to be baked a little bit longer?
Fallen Order.
Yes. Yeah. Fallen Order was a really good example of kind of like when you've just not screwed the IKEA furniture that little bit more.
I've got one wonky drawer on my nightstand.
And the whole thing leans, and it's only because of one or two screws. And it's like, it's that thing. It's so prevalent, but it's so difficult to do. And yeah, I don't know. I think in a world where there were gold dates, it was a little bit easier maybe. And the day one patch is kind of in a way maybe made stuff harder for people. But yeah.
The Hades series you guys are doing is really cool. Just because that is something you don't really see. Like a lot of it's, you get the preview stuff, and then maybe after you get postmortem, like here's kind of how it went, here's the struggles we had, but you never see like in the thick of it.
Do you remember back in the day there was a GameSpot series? I think I've
made
Black Powder Red Earth.
BPRE,
yeah.
Do you remember that? That's where it reminded me.
The game never came out.
Yeah. There was a series back in the day that we both used to watch.
It was called something else, but the game was Black Powder Red.
It was a game called like Black Powder Red.
It wasn't indie development. It was something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. But it was like
Ryan McDonald and those guys.
they were like
put it
embedded
together.
with a team who was making this like sci-fi shooter game.
Yeah.
And like it was like weekly behind the scenes.
Oh my God,
And it was
I remember
incredible,
that.
and that game just vanished.
There are no unique ideas. Everything I've done on NoClip is like ripping off.
reminded me of.
I remember
GameSpot did it.
totally. Yeah. It's like, or what I did like.
I was obsessed with that show though.
When we do like one-off interview things, and like the one I always remembered in my head was this show on GameSpot back in the day. It was called what was it called? It was they'd interviewed. There was a couple of them. They'd interviewed Molyneux and a couple of people on these one-off. Then I found out it was Jeff Keighley had actually produced.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
for
yeah.
GameSpot.
His Final Hours
Final
stuff.
Hours.
No, it wasn't Final Hours. It was
Was
he
it a
had
different
done Final
one?
Hours, but they were write-ups on GameSpot.
Yeah.
But there was a video series.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I
It
remember
had
the graphics.
gears.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah,
Behind
I
the
remember.
games.
Yeah.
Jeff
They might have been lost in the great Windows
still find it.
server
They're on
conversion.
YouTube.
They
They're
are.
on YouTube,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was Keighley who put those together. Yeah.
So Will, who works on engineering, he actually was just showing me the other day that basically all like our first videos that we've posted, if you go to our video page and scroll all the way to like page 3000, you can find it, and it's like gameplay, movie, cutscene one, gameplay, movie, like things that people just embedded in articles, but you can actually find that in like.
Oh, that's still there. So I was on the other day and I was looking for. We had Yacht Club in.
Yes.
To shoot audio logs, and he was David D'Angelo was asking for, we're going to compare this with this. Do you have gameplay of this? So I was going back through the old GameSpot archives. We used to call things, instead of just saying gameplay, we used to call it Splosion Man gameplay movie.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest thing. And we were doing that until about 2011.
Yeah.
Well, it's like,
Very
that's the other
strange.
thing Will said. Will's like, it doesn't really normal out until you get to like page 2000. And I'm like, so there's just 1,000 pages.
But they
of
don't
just
play
like,
it, right? A lot of them are just like.
Some
No,
of
I
them
think
are
a lot of
broken,
them
but
are.
some of
Yeah,
them you can
yeah.
find.
That was in the era when you could download the movies. Remember?
Yeah.
And like, I
Which you
downloaded
can from the
all
CMS.
of them.
Yeah.
we were at a bar and Will just starts playing like random cutscenes from games from
God.
years and years
I
ago.
remember getting
Like,
into
how
a
did
big
you do
argument
this?
with Lark over them pulling the downloading off the.
Yeah, I love
So it was like
that.
a super small subsection of users that did it, but they were like important users you didn't want to piss off.
Yeah.
They were me. I was downloading every single video.
I remember
Yeah, just
something.
one guy in the UK has downloaded like 10,000. It's really
I
weird.
burned them all to VCDs, and I genuinely had like 200 VCDs.
Oh my
of
God.
just games. I think I still have the stack. It was like I've probably got a comprehensive history of
Wow.
GameSpot videos somewhere.
If you have any of my old blog videos, because they're mostly gone.
I've got some of those as well.
Oh,
probably.
They all,
Get
they
'em
all
out.
disappeared.
Get 'em out.
Okay.
I've definitely got the Bioshock one. I
Oh, you
definitely
do?
downloaded the Bioshock
With my
one
niece in it.
With your when you're sitting in the tub as well.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
about to electrocute yourself.
Yeah. we put some weird stuff up.
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
They
yeah.
shouldn't have let users
No,
post
no,
videos
no.
on GameSpot. No.
Next one. Since he spends so much time covering the stories of games from behind the scenes, does he ever think about how he would run his own studio? Also, does he remember when we all sang karaoke in Tokyo with Japanese businessmen and called Blessing? That's from Ian. Why not? Ian.
That was fun. We did a meetup in Japan, and way more people turned up than me and Jeremy were expecting, like 40 people or something, and like
Dang.
Tokyo bars whole like you know, you
like
could-
10 people.
yeah. So thankfully
And they're
somebody
like
found
someone's
one.
living room, and then
Yeah.
you look.
It was madness. What was the question? It was
How would you run your own studio given what you
oh
know?
gosh, like I'm sure I've pulled in ideas about running our current studio of me and Jeremy from places I've worked before. I did try. I wanted to work in games because I was a web developer programmer and I studied C# and did XZA, and my final college program was a 2D platform game that I coded, but I didn't have the discipline for it. I don't have the attention for the thing I loved about working in video. When I worked in web development, you'd work on a project for a couple of months, and then it was like a chain around your neck for the rest of your life, because you had to constantly, as the internet updated, you had to constantly work on this website. So you just build up this massive amount of collars that you had to constantly keep fixing. And what I liked about what made me fearful about games was working on a project for 5 years. I don't think I had the ability to work on something creatively, ideate that long. Whereas video stuff, you can work on something for a week or 2 days, or you can work on something for the longest projects we've had have maybe been 2 months of post production, and it's that's fine because you can see the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
So-
I think about that sometimes too because I've been here for 5 years
Right.
almost now, and I'm like, that's a long time. But it was like, if I was working on a game, that would be
Yeah.
like one
Be
shipped game.
one.
Could you imagine? Yeah, and then like we talked to a lot of like developers, and they've they'll have symptoms like something akin to like a postpartum of what do you do once this big
Yeah,
thing
I'm
that's
sure.
been the way you've lived your life and focused, and this thing you've like tried to create is suddenly out in the world and you don't have control over it anymore. Or, like, what do you do with that? And they've massive like problems trying to get back from that. So yeah, it's great. It is interesting going to different studios and learning the different ways the culture works. And the big thing I look for when we're trying to see if a place is like, because everyone's trying to put on their good face for us, and ultimately when you're like telling these stories, you're picking a version of the lie. Like, you'll never get close to the truth. You'll never have all the truth. So you sort of like try and find as close to the lie you want to tell. And for me, figuring out whether or not a place is like righteous or not is looking at tenure and looking at like how long people have been there, like what the average tenure is, like what type of people they employ, like how diverse their workforce is, how if people have like been promoted, like all that sort of stuff, and you can get a real sense of it. And it's funny, like I'm sure one day we'll do like a breakdown of like the ones that are really not good and the ones that are, but I think that's the biggest sense for me of like how well a place is run is whether or not people stick around, like how bad that turnover is. I think the average turnover, the average job in BGS Maryland, the average tenure I think was 12 years.
Wow.
We're like,
Jeez.
whoa, and they get more shit than anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They take care of their people.
It's got Todd looking out for his boys.
Yeah, his tenure I think is like
Yeah.
20 something years
Yeah.
old.
He's there for life.
Yeah. Totally.
Last question in the dancers section. If No Clip got a killer Netflix deal, what would you do with an unlimited budget, at least for 2 seasons before you're canceled? That's from
It's
Web.
too
Yeah.
soon, man. It's
Yeah.
too soon to
Yeah.
talk about Mindhunter in that way.
Oh god, yeah, that's a travesty, boy.
What's that? You're going to finish Mindhunter? for
Yeah,
us?
no, I don't think so.
Sweet.
Mindhunter season 3.
I'd love to do something there. I think if we did, it would have to be something that was way more mainstream focusing on like, I think my favorite thing about like Netflix is like full. It's like there's more documentaries than anything else. Like people are throwing money into documentaries, and then whenever anyone tries to make a documentary about games, it's like the history of games.
Yeah.
It's like
E.T..
right. Yeah, do you remember that? And the blah blah blah. and
I
it's like,
watched that.
can you imagine going on like
That documentary about finding ET.
the ET one? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was produced. I think it was
I think it was
somewhat
produced with
by
Microsoft.
Microsoft, yeah, but I know the folks over the other ocean. It was boring.
real
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, well they dug them up and they were there.
It's the same stories.
It's like the
over and
Loch Ness
over again.
Monster. It'd be boring if you found it. It's more, well, maybe that wouldn't be. But the thing that they keep doing is that, and it's really weird because like it's like you don't go to like the documentary section and they're like, here's the history of food. It's just like it's such an outrageously broad way of tackling it, but that's the way everyone does it. Because you go in food documentaries, it's like every tiny little slice. So like, I don't know. I think ultimately the stories that are interesting when it comes to documentaries are not talking heads Wikipedia articles. They're about people. And there's a couple of like specific stories that we've kind of like done, or maybe like one would like lean into more if we had the opportunity to do them like with a more substantial crew or more time more than anything else, because time is the most expensive thing.
Especially on like, I feel like if you're going to shoot a Netflix documentary, right, that's probably like a year and a half. Like that's going to take a while.
100%. And then to do that, we'd still need to obviously keep up everything on the no clip side as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can, what are you doing then? Because like what we like about our stuff is that it'll exist no matter, it's out in the world and people can have it and there's no ads and they can,
There's
that's
a
where
paywall
it
with
is.
Netflix too.
That's totally 100%. So like, what are you doing at that stage? You're doing commercial work, and maybe that story should be told for everyone for free without international, like as well. We have a lot of people who watch outside of English speaking territories and stuff. So I think there is something to be done. I think when the story presents itself, I'd probably push harder on it. But
There's a great series on Netflix called Hip Hop Evolution,
oh yeah,
which is like charts the history of hip hop start to current day, but it's like through the people that were there as much as they can, or the people that they were influenced by.
I think I watched a couple
So, like,
episodes
yeah,
of
it's
that.
real good. It's like maybe 2 seasons, not super long, but like each, and it's got like well-known rappers
Right.
in there, like talking about, oh yeah, I was coming up and this was the sound, and then I took this and that, and like there's something that could be made in that similar vein for games where it's like you could probably get pretty far back with like original developers, but then it's like almost like charting the relay race of the
Right.
development of video games. Like I saw this and I was influenced this, and then my thing influenced the next generation.
It's harder, I feel like, with games to have that sort of like personal through line, because you'll have these people who are like producers, develop or whatever, and they're like, they are the emotional core. But when you can do it somewhat with games, but then you get into the 90s and suddenly teams start ballooning and you don't have individuals who can tell the story that way. So it's really, for me, ESPN 30 for 30s were like, that was the big inspiration for NoClip, was like, oh no, each of these stories is its own little thing and you tell it its own way. Like 30 for 30, the only thing that ties them together is basically the logo at the start. Outside of that, it could be Ice Cube talking to you about the Oakland Raiders. It could be this like, there's one that's just about this one day in time. It was the day that OJ was in the car chase, and there was a bunch of other like sports things. Like the form can adapt to the story, and that's the most important thing. So you can tell the story the best way it can be told, instead of having the box and trying to fit things into the box. So yeah, it's I'd love to. Yeah, that's why our stuff doesn't have much of a formula either. Like some of them are big series, some of them are small things. And so the problem with Netflix is that you kind of need to formalize it.
It's either a show or a movie
or a one-off. So it's hard to say what that thing would be.
True
'Cause it
crime
would need
gaming
to fit it.
documentary.
One of the more
I've
interesting.
been thinking about that. Do not mention anymore.
One of the at least one of my favorite videos that I've worked on since I've been here was series of videos was Mike and I and Richard kind of like followed the immersive sim, and we talked to like Harvey Smith and Raf Colantonio, but then we also talked to like Richard Garriott and what's his name? He loves Mickey Mouse. I can't believe it. Warren Spector.
Warren Spector.
Warren Spector.
He loves
Epic
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Well, he showed us
Mickey
like
game.
Yeah.
He made one of the games, but
Epic
where
Mickey.
we
Made Epic
filmed
Mickey.
it, he was like, "This is my Mickey museum." And like, pretty much when we walked in, and there was just like so
Museum.
much Mickey Mouse
That
memorabilia.
sounds ominous
wholesome.
as hell, man.
Yeah.
Do you
It's like
use
Mickey
weird.
Museum.
Does Mickey mean the same thing in England as it does in Ireland?
Taking the piss.
Take
No,
a
it literally means like penis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Mickey.
Less so.
Yeah.
We
Mickey
call like taking a
Museum.
Mickey.
Yeah, we'd say
Okay,
taking
penis
Mickey
museum.
too. Mickey literally
Yeah,
means
Mickey Museum. It's a Warren
Mickey
Spector.
Museum back home would be. Yeah.
Rename that museum.
I've been to that museum.
One of my
In
favorite things.
Amsterdam.
One of my
Secondary
favorite things
school.
to come out of that though was we interviewed Richard Garriott, and that guy is really smart. Like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
like his
It's like a polymath. He's
yeah,
like,
his brain is just on another level. And we asked him like, so what is it that makes like immersive sims really special? He's like, okay, well, when people play games, they want as many options as they can. Let's say this place is on fire, and he starts listing all these things. Like, we try to break through the window, but it's wired glass. We can't get through it. Okay, well, what if we get through the door? We can't get through the door because it's locked or the handles are hot, so we can't do that. And he's like going through all these scenarios in his head, and he just like one after the other, and he's like, this is how we get out if there was a fire. And we're like, okay, that's pretty cool.
And he throws a match on the floor.
Yeah, and then he's like,
welcome to my Mickey Museum.
no, but we were editing it, and I was sitting next to Richard at the time, and Richard's like, this guy's really smart. And then Richard does some research, and he's like, wait a
literally-
second.
he's
He
an
said
astronaut.
the same exact thing
Oh, really?
multiple times for different interviews.
Yeah.
And we found a bunch of interviews
That's
of him
hard.
going through the same
It's
thing.
the worst thing when that happens. Yeah.
You hate to see it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a little bit of a tangent, but now we're on to the listener questions. There's not a whole lot. But yeah, if you guys have questions, make sure to email us at afterdarkpodcast@gamespot.com. This is our favorite part of the show where we get to answer your questions. So please send them our way. Lucy, do you want to read the first one?
Ooh, okay. This is from Sam from Atlanta. Hey, y'all, been an avid listener since episode 1 and quickly came to love the relaxed atmosphere of the podcast week to week. We don't
Chill,
have
high
beer
vibes.
today.
Chill high vibes, man.
Yeah.
Because
We
we're
don't have
recording
beer.
like
Beer.
after. Oh, we usually
Oh, have you done it earlier for me? Is that what happened?
We have.
Yes.
But it's
thank
all right.
you. Thank you.
probably shouldn't drink in work hours.
I have to drive back to the. Yeah, so I definitely
That's
can. Yeah.
My question is, though, assuming you have some of the GameSpot video producers, woo,
Past and
Three.
present.
yeah, past and present, on this week, how did you get to that position? I'm a recent college graduate myself,
Cool.
doing freelance work, and would love to someday work that job for a gaming site. Any advice? Thanks so much, Sam from Atlanta. P.S. I really hope the answer isn't just blind luck, because I'm just not that lucky.
I feel like you should go first. Or,
Well, I was going to say, my answer is you and Cam and Seb. So
Yeah, we. I get maybe it's different in different countries as well. I guess. I think just like it's really difficult, right? Because I don't like. I think having a portfolio of work is like the most important thing. I felt like, or being able to show that you're able to learn. I guess. we should just get Chris in here to answer the question.
Bowman.
Yeah, Bowman, because he was the one who hired me. So, and I turned up late for that fucking interview. So, God knows why I got the job. Yeah, I don't know. I think like
Passion.
but I actually absolutely, yeah, but there's a lot of people who try to write entirely on passion or enthusiasm, which I think is like such a folly. Like you need to have like passion is really good, but if you can't back it up with like actual work,
and if you can't accept criticism that's shaping you and helping you improve, that's another big thing.
100%. Yeah, that's
like I've been in loads of interviews at both sides of the table, and I think anyone who's hired someone can speak to this. People can tell when you're faking something.
Totally.
If you're like faking experience, people will immediately figure you out. What you're better off doing is showing passion and a genuine willingness to gain the experience that the person wants. Yeah. So like holding your hands up and being like, listen, I don't have that much experience, but I really love this thing. I work so hard. I know that I've got this foundational knowledge and I can build on it, is way more likely to keep you in that person's mind than being like, yeah, I can do,
After Effects.
The difficulty I think here maybe for video stuff is that there aren't very many, like except for when you do internships, like entry level positions, because the cost of living here is so high. So like it's no one is expecting anyone to have professional experience generally. Having a YouTube channel and having some sort of like having a YouTube channel and having an audience is obviously wonderful, but just having a YouTube channel that shows like work that you've been creating at some like level of frequency or that there's an evolution there, I think that goes a long way as well. But like it's weird because then there's always the tantalizing like Twitch and YouTube sort of lifestyle over here. I don't know. I've met a lot of Twitch and YouTube people, and a lot of people who work in games coverage, and I think games coverage is a far better lifestyle, better type of work. You get to work collaboratively with people. You get to sleep. You get to, especially when people start having kids, it gets real difficult in that world. So
I mean, I got a little lucky, I think, but I was just making videos. I was making videos. I was writing articles. My friends and I started like a small gaming website. We had almost no audience, but the reason I got it was because I got lucky and checked job openings one day, or a friend sent me a job opening. He was like, hey, there's a video internship. This sounds like your kind of thing. And I applied. And I think the reason I got it, the reason I got in the door, the reason I got an interview with like Ty and Neha was because like I just had like a long list of videos that I had already made. Like I was already doing it, and it was clear that I still had a long way to go, but it was like, okay, there's a foundation here that we can see and can work with. And I actually was part of the hiring process for hiring our intern, Evan. And I interviewed a couple people, and what Tamoor was saying is like, you can tell when someone's faking it. Like, I obviously I'm not going to say any names, but I was like, so like, what do you like about GameSpot? Like, do you follow us on, like, do you check our news? He's like, actually, I get news from like, he like, for a while he was saying like, oh yeah, I like this. And then eventually at one point he was like, oh yeah, I get my news from IGN. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, that's not bad.
Which is fine. That just don't lie about it then.
That was the thing. Like he was trying to like talk about all these things on GameSpot that he really likes. And I was like, we don't really do that kind of stuff. Like
I was like critical of GameSpot when I came in for my interview because I've been I was a consumer of it, but I've been on it for like whatever, 6 years at that stage. And I was like, these things are good and these things are, honesty is way more important than, than that.
I didn't have any video experience when I got my internship because.
But you worked in television after that, right?
After, But no, when I got my internship, I'd only ever been writing for my friend's like enthusiast site, right, and my university paper, and then Alex Sassoon-Kobe was the one who interviewed me, and I don't even think video came up until I started, and
they were kind of rolling everyone into video at that stage, right?
Yeah, and my first day, it was, hey, do you want to come see how we make Start Select? And it was Seb and Jane doing it. And then you got me I was in Escape from Run Stupid a couple times. That was, I guess, technically my first ever on-camera thing. And then because I was there for a month, and they would just give me, like, I remember working with you to cut some Call of Duty. Remember we used to do feature rappers?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah,
I did some Call of Duty ones.
Get all the meat off the buffalo.
Yeah. all that kind of like little things and little jobs to sort of teach me how to edit. And then by the end of the internship, I did video features. I did like on camera stuff. And then I went to work for TV company.
Yeah, totally. You were killing it.
So thank you.
Yeah.
It's different ways of doing it. I think it's to what you were saying. It's the passion and willingness to learn,
and getting your hands
and
dirty.
ability.
Yeah,
like
and-
you were
yeah.
like a lot of people have enthusiasm, but like I feel like everything that you got thrown at, you were actually able to do, or if you weren't, you'd
Thank you. I
ask. You know what I
tried,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah. There was none of that, like, you know, trying to keep it to yourself and then, oh, fuck, you know.
Yeah.
I think
2 hours before the embargo.
Yeah, and I think that was the
started.
case with everyone that Chris got on, actually, because Cam was the same way. Cam will put his hands up the minute if you couldn't
Yeah.
do anything, he'd put his hands up.
Well, I
And
think because I was sat
tried
next to
as well.
Cam and
Yeah.
I was opposite you,
Right.
and so as well, and Seb was around, and so I felt like I was in a safe enough environment that I could just say, "Hey guys,
Right,
let's
yeah.
talk on
Yeah, there was no
something," and
ego
let-
there.
Yeah,
It was great. Like, yeah, I really liked that there. I learned a lot there.
Yeah, I think another important thing that we talked about too on a previous episode was just don't burn yourself out, especially like if you're trying to build up like a portfolio before you apply or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't kill
You're
yourself
better off
over it.
making like one video every couple weeks that's solid and like
Yeah.
well thought out, and it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can just be like decently shot, the good sound, like, you know, the basics. It's like there. Just do that frequently, and when someone on the video team looks at it and sees like this consistency and a baseline fundamental, they just see potential. That's the important thing. Like, is if you don't have the experience, give the person who's potentially going to hire you the opportunity to see that if they invest in you, you will deliver something for them. Because that's what people want, right? Like companies like ours, they're willing to find someone who doesn't have a lot of experience because they know they can sink time and money into creating you into something cool, and it will benefit them. So like showing that willingness to learn and passion and not burning out super quickly and then having like this massive gap. That happens a lot where people are like, I stopped writing.
Yeah,
and now
totally.
I'm interested in it again. It's like, you had it going, but I need something recent.
Yeah,
and
consistent.
Like, yeah.
You want to read the next question, Tamoor?
You got,
Sure, yeah. You want to take that one?
What question is it?
I gotta
Like his more art.
I'm also like on borrowed time here at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
FYI. Sorry. I
This
got an
one?
interview at 4:00. Work never stops.
Why don't we just do? Yeah, why don't we just do this one and then we'll call it at that.
Sorry, mysterious
Okay.
other emailer.
Hey all, been an avid listener since episode 1.
Oh, I
and-
did that one.
Is that the one that you did?
Yes.
Oh, is it the Game of the Year one?
Yeah.
Oh, we
Okay,
read
right.
this already?
Okay.
Next one down.
Yeah. Just listen to your Game of the Year podcast. Enjoy the discussion on Sekiro and its connection to Sengoku Japan. This has always been one of my favorite pieces of history, but inspired by a different game, Kessen, for the PlayStation 2. Obviously, Koei provides a gateway into history in their games, from Three Kingdoms to Nobunaga's Ambition. But what are some other examples of games that have unlocked interest in the real world? Did you start reading about Defenestration of Prague after playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, or did Baba is you saying to look for more logic puzzles?
Oh, that's a goodie.
I played Sekiro and now I'm a swordsman.
P.S. There's more. There's a on the other side.
Oh,
I don't think it's a question. It's just
Okay. P.S. James Clavell's book Shogun is set in the Sengoku era and will be adapted into an FX miniseries. It was already run in 1980. If you're interested in the period, it's also an interesting read.
Nice.
Thank you, Andrew Depew.
I've had that with a lot of sports where like I played Formula 1 games and got into Formula 1, or hockey, like ice hockey and American football from like Madden and NHL. Stuff like that where it's literally teaching you gameplay mechanics, which also are real world gameplay mechanics. It's a pretty easy one to translate over, yeah.
mine is probably Control. I think a lot of people in this office too
Right.
just did a lot because it plays with a lot of real world theories and stuff like that. And then I did a lot of research along with Peter Brown, just trying to figure out what the heck some of the stuff they were talking about, and then followed up. Like I know Mike has been talking about House of Leaves. I think he talked about it a lot on the Giant Beastcast. And I finally started reading that just because of Control and how Control is based on it. I don't know. It's not necessarily like learning facts or you know, like new skills, but I'd say that would be
SCP, man.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, I can't think of much that sticks out for me. Like I think delving.
You already knew everything.
I know everything. Yeah, that's the thing. I think delving deeper into like Bloodborne made me more interested in Lovecraft, which was
Secret
slightly
Wrongen.
tempered by the
Full
fact that
Wrongen.
he's like
Tamoor's a massive racist.
top 10 Wrongen HP Lovecraft. So I'm like, because I bought the Necronomicon and then I was like, what is this guy
mate.
like? And I read it and I was like, oh no.
Oh.
Well, and I not read the HP Lovecraft stuff, but I've been more delving into stuff that was inspired by it, but isn't
Cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror. Yeah. Basically, I've been playing Bloodborne non-stop.
Right.
Can't wait for
Yeah, I heard it's on
Lovecraft Country
Switch,
to come
too.
out.
I heard, yeah.
Oh, don't do this. For me, it's more psychology of game design.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And because I did a psychology degree
Yeah.
that I hated. Sorry, University of Leeds. Because it's not, they barely taught you anything that was applicable to like a real life example. And so when you look at closer at game design and why designers do things and how it kind of not messes with the psychology, but taps into the innate psychological processes that you have and how that relates to real life, I find that very interesting.
I was late for my law exam because I was on the toilet playing Phoenix Wright once.
Oh my God.
Thematically accurate. Nice. Objection.
What time was it? Was it just your
I was
your scheduled?
Because I got there too early because as Lucy can attest to, I'm like, whenever there's an appointment for me to go somewhere, I overcompensate. So like I'll turn up to the airport 5 hours early. So
and I had to share a cab, so I was at the airport 5 hours early.
God.
So I showed up to my exam 2 hours early, and I was like, what the hell am I gonna do? I was like, well, I'll just get the most satisfying experience I can by playing Phoenix Wright while also
On the
taking
toilet.
a dump.
Nothing's more satisfying.
And taking a fat
And
shit.
then like
Wow.
got really like enveloped in a case. And then like looked at my watch and I was like, oh man.
One of my favorite Tamoor stories for that stuff is he used to work in a store on one end of the Central Line, and he lived like, I don't know, 5 stops from the end of the Central Line, maybe it was, and he fell asleep one time and you ended up in Essex, and then you fell asleep on the way back and ended up back at Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah. Went just up and down like in one day.
Poor guy. It's like 2 hours of your day.
It was rough. It was a rough time.
Anyway, that's about as good as time as any to end this, I'd say. Lucy James, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Lucy James Games.
Danny,
Plug your
anything you
stuff.
want to plug?
At Daniel Dwyer, hit NoClip on your internet search machine and you might hit us.
The Patreons.
The Patreon.
And the Hugo Martin interview podcast is...
Yeah, that went up last week, and we have an interview. Thank you. And we shot a very small interview with Hugo about the demons that are in the new game, which will be up. Don't know. Depends on how fast I can edit it tomorrow. Watch this space.
I'm at Tamoor H on Twitter. That's about it.
All right. And you can find me at Jacob Deck. And once again, email your questions to afterdarkpodcast@gamespot.com.
Do it.
And yeah, make sure to go to gamespot.com. Check us out.
Bye.
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 Bye.